We are live.
Hello.
Hello.
We already have questions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever you got the star function, yeah?
The what? Huh? Who?
The star function?
I don't think so. I think you'd
Okay,
have to give that to me somehow.
in the
I can
StreamYard
see the
chat.
starred stuff.
Okay.
Let me see. Yeah, I don't. No, I don't have any chat starring abilities.
Let's see. Questions. Hey, good morning, everyone. I am just going through and hitting some of the questions. Wixer Project Off Grid asked a bunch of questions, so we will hit
Yeah.
some of those on the way through.
First, how are you, Steve?
I'm good. I've been up for a little bit, like
Yeah.
an hour.
Oh, dig it. I've been up for a
Coffee
little
in the
longer
pot.
than that, but that makes sense since it's been morning here for a lot longer. I can tell you from the future that it doesn't get better in a couple of hours.
Oh, I'm sure it does. It can't get worse.
It just gets
Um,
worse.
I mean,
Dig it. So,
yeah, man. How are you doing?
man, I'm surviving. We're good. It's going into 24. I have a new mantra for 2024. And the phrase is no more in 24.
No
No more gear.
more,
No
no
more
more
guitars
what?
or amps. I'm not
That's it.
buying any more for 24.
I know
That's the
it.
goal.
Gotcha. I got a question for you. What camera do you use?
I use a Sony A6400.
That's what
And
you're using right now?
that's what I'm using right now.
What capture card are you using?
Oh, I don't know. Something I got off Amazon.
Okay.
I can't. It's in the back behind the computer, so I can't see and tell you what it is. I'm going to take these glasses off because the glare is really annoying. We're just
Oh,
going to pretend I can see.
mine's just gonna be purple the whole time. So
It's that eyeshadow, man.
I've got and then so you bought the Sony the external power?
Yeah, it's I bought. It's real weird. I've got it wired up some funky way. I actually think I bought one of the false batteries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it it actually has on the other end of it, it's got just a 2.1 barrel.
Oh,
And yeah,
interesting.
and so I've got it plugged into like a pedal power supply.
Okay. Yeah, I've got an A64, I think. It was my wife's. It's my wife's camera, but I want to. You'll have to send me a picture sometime of what's on the opposite side of you
Yeah, I will.
because I think I want to
Up your video game?
up my video game. And my thought is like, well, I could just buy like a low G webcam or something, but it's like I'm gonna have to buy a power supply anyway
Yeah,
if I ever want to use that Sony for like any kind of real filming. That's
right.
more than like whatever the 30-minute battery life is. I know those batteries burn pretty quick when you're doing video.
They do.
Um,
Before I had the power solution for the A6400, so when I record the podcast, we do like an hour.
yeah.
And then there's a little bit of it. We take like a 5-minute break, and then we record the Patreon episode.
Hmm.
And my camera used to die. Though longtime listeners will remember me mentioning occasionally, like we'll be chatting, and I'm like, "Hey, my camera dies. No big deal. Keep going. I'll have to swap the battery." And well, then I got the power supply solution. And originally I was running it, and I think I was underpowering it. Because I was getting a weird like frame. You could see a line in the camera, and it would
Oh,
just slowly
interesting.
go down. And it was just ever so slightly out of sync, right?
Hmm.
And so, but that was fine. I could deal with it. Well, ever since I got it into just more robust power, I've never had that problem again. So
Interesting. Yeah, we'll have to chat because, like I said, that's the. I didn't realize that's the camera you were running, and that's what I'm running. And I'm talking to Ryan about um, getting some other things that are going to let me video up.
yeah.
The first thing I need to do is I need my new glasses to show up.
Yeah.
Um, but
So I have a question then. While we're
yeah,
talking about this, guys. This is just us chatting business talk here. So the plan is to up my demo game a little bit. I've got a whole like shelf full of pedals I'm doing demos for.
yeah,
I'm hoping to launch the first one about mid-January and then be consistent from there.
okay,
What day do you think? Of course, I could look up and see what people say, but do you have any idea what days tend to work best for you and Ryan?
Ryan might have
Yeah,
some sense of that, but I was going through his release schedule and it's not
all over the map.
consistent. I mean, there's only 5 days, or there's functionally only like 5 days in the week because when you release on the weekends, you get no traction,
Yeah,
or you get less traction because people aren't going to um, do stuff like they're not. People
yeah,
aren't
yeah.
sitting around on a Saturday morning to watch YouTube.
Yeah, I've actually discovered that the Discord channel, the both 60 Cycle Hum and the 40 Watt Podcast have Discord servers. Um, Discord is more active during the week working day.
Yeah,
People are
yeah,
more active at work on Discord than they are when they get home or on the weekend.
yeah. Um, can I change the layout? I probably cannot.
All right. So I'm gonna go back while you're doing that. I'm gonna answer
Oh yeah.
the project off grid. So the question I'm gonna take them like in pieces. First
Hold
of all,
on. Let me answer this
oh
first
yeah,
one. Snarky K says,
oh
"Is it
yeah, yeah.
on yet?" Yes, it is. It was not on then, but it
But
is
it is now.
on now when we're answering the
Yeah,
question.
at least we hope.
So
It
there we
says
go.
it is. We're
One down.
trusting it.
What question do you want to
So
look at?
I was going to go back to the capacitors on pots inside of a guitar.
Mm,
Wickershire. I don't know if you're in the UK or the US. That changes the way you pronounce that. Um, you should see them all the time. So what the capacitor does inside the guitar, it determines the sweep of the tone knob. A low capacitor, the lower the capacitor, the more frequencies it rolls off to ground. So if you want to have a pretty dramatic effect on your tone pot, you put a much smaller I'm not going to start quoting micro and picofarads because I don't know the numbers. I
sure.
don't. I have to look it up every time. But I do know the smaller the capacitor, the more frequencies you roll off to ground, and the larger the capacitor, the narrower it rolls off the high frequencies. So that just it changes the way your pickups interact with the tone knob. That's pretty much it. Steve, you have anything I missed there?
No, I mean that's the key thing is like the capacitors. Uh, they change where your range is, but and then people try to argue about quality and paper and oil
Oh
and
yeah.
there
Oh
was a
man.
whole controversy a couple years ago because one of the big pre-wire manufacturers. I say big, like it's probably still like a three-man shop or whatever, I don't know. But I mean most of these companies, I say big is like established,
Right,
right?
right. That's what it really
um
means. A known company.
they were taking, was it just metal and film and wrapping them in paper and selling them as paper and oil?
I don't remember which way it went, but it was this huge controversy, as big as a controversy can be in the guitar world for, these are toys. We play with
Yeah.
toys. Um, but yeah, I
And
think that covers it.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, just to piggyback on that, the question about active pickups, what makes active actually active? Um, the difference in an active and a passive circuit. In a passive circuit, you can't add frequencies. All you can do is take away.
Hmm.
So in a regular, any normal guitar, I say normal, the majority of guitars have a passive circuit. So what the tone control is actually doing is peeling away frequencies and rolling them to ground and leaving you with usually it's a brightness roll off. It rolls off the high end to ground, and
Right.
that's what that capacitor is affecting.
Hmm.
In an active EQ in a guitar, it can do a lot of things. So I'm going to be really, really general. One active circuit I'm pretty familiar with, Steven, I bet you are too, is the Ernie Ball Stingray
Yeah.
active circuitry.
Yeah.
So what the way that works is you've got a 3-band EQ that affects different frequencies due to the capacitors they use.
Hmm.
But as opposed to a passive circuit, there is power in that circuit, usually from a 9-volt battery, although more and more adding some kind of lithium ion battery inside the guitar. Um, I think it's a lithium ion. Anyway, but so you can actually add frequencies. So you can beef up the mid range, you can beef up the high end, you can do things like that. You can even just get a hotter signal out of it.
Right. And something to that I think is, you mentioned the Ernie Ball thing. Those Ernie Ball, the pickups are generally designed to run with or without that. And that's something that's different between active guitar
Yeah.
pickups. Typically, I should say the biggest name in active guitar pickups is EMG.
Yes.
And EMG actually uses an extremely low output pickup, so low that if your battery is dead, actually, I don't know. I've never heard of anybody trying to bypass an EMG or an EMG circuit and just run an active EMG as a passive. Maybe you
Oh, I'm
can.
sure someone's done it.
I've just never seen it.
Yeah.
I am unable to find milliamp specifications, not milliamp, DC resistance specifications for the Seymour Duncan blackouts.
Oh,
From
yeah.
what I remember, that people have posted um, the uh, DCR or whatever you want to call it uh, for EMGs, and I want to say it's like sub 3.
Okay.
But I like I said, I'm not sure for the blackouts if they have that. Let's see, blackouts
Yeah, see,
on
I'm
the
I'm totally unfamiliar with any of the active circuits for guitar because I just don't play them.
yeah, the Mick Thompson Seymour Duncans are just listed as NA, like they just don't list any information, which is to be said, like they're not probably because they're not designed to be run that way.
Right.
Whereas oftentimes an active bass pickup is still like a 5 or 6K or whatever bass pickup. And it's just like a lower, let's see, baseline passives. Where are your bass actives? Actives. I guess they don't list any of them for the Seymour Duncan actives. But like I said, I know at least in the case of the Ernie Balls, um, they take an active. So all that to say, I'm rambling.
Yeah.
But on a guitar, typically you can do a lot of different things. Well, you can do a lot of things with an active circuit as soon as you introduce an active circuit.
Yeah,
But
exactly. You the world is available to you once you add power
yeah,
because there's a ton of things you can
uh,
do.
but usually on like on an electric bass, that active circuit is going to be like a 2 band or 3 band EQ or more. But
Yep.
sometimes on guitar, it's like, oh, you're going to drop EMGs into a Les Paul. You're still just going to do volume, volume, tone, tone, and you're done. Like you just want the preamp to be a preamp, and you're still going to do all of your tone shaping at the amp or through pedals or whatever.
Yeah. And Michael Krause makes a great point too. There is a difference between active pickups and an active preamp as well. So
Right.
do your pickups need power or does just the preamp need power? Ultimately, just blanket overgeneralization. If the circuit needs power, it's active.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Let's see. I'll come back to that. The next question: does pot size matter? I think this is there's a weed joke here.
There is
Um,
100%.
but I'll say my understanding is it's more about quality of pot than I don't know that like
So
is there a
it does matter. It's why jazz masters are so bright. Jazz masters use a 1 meg pot.
oh, I'm thinking of like actual like a mini pot versus a
Oh, no,
standard size
I
pot.
think he means okay, I heard that as homage, because
Oh, okay.
that's what usually people say, but if not, if you're just talking the physical size of the pot, no,
Hmm,
does not
hmm.
matter. Just get quality. But if you're talking size of pot, yeah, you get a 1 meg, it's letting more high end through to start with. So, once again, it's that whole resistance, how much high end is getting through. So if you have a 1 meg pot, you're letting way more high end through. When you get down to a 500 meg pot, you're letting less. When you get down to 250, I'm sorry, not 500 meg, 500K, Then you get down to 250K, even less. It's a whole game, and people will fight about this stuff. If you want to get vintage guitar, especially vintage Gibson people, completely flipped out, tell them that you know the correct pot value for a vintage Les Paul.
Isn't it? Is it 300?
There's lots of answers.
No, I know.
They use 500 today, but I think 330 to 350 is what you'll find in typical vintage Les Pauls.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I think this was answered by David Ross in the chat already, but voltage, does voltage matter for capacitor? I believe he said that the answer is basically no.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Again, it doesn't matter unless you're actually putting power through it.
Yeah,
and
I
then
did want to hit this. So there's a couple different things. One, Siggy Sauer says the mini alpha pots in his Orville have a great audio taper like CTS. And then the reply was, I always see small pots used and people complain. And this is kind of something that Sassy Cat mentioned in the chat, and I won't pull that one up, is that typically like small pots are associated with import brands or associated with like just the cheapest. It's the kind of thing where it's like the difference in cost of the metals used between a mini pot and a full-size pot has got to be like pennies, if that, like fractions of a penny.
Yeah.
But when you're making a million of these things, that stuff adds up. So
real fast.
So a lot of times the small pots, it's not just about like Siggy Sauer says, like a mini alpha is probably great. A mini everybody else, where there's not any kind of name on it, is just because they're making a thing that they need to have. So that's probably that. I got a bunch. I got 7 more questions.
Oh man.
Are you familiar? I'm not. Are you familiar with the Seymour Duncan Hyperswitch?
I am cursory familiar. Like I know that it exists. I know that it can do a bunch of stuff. I have not tinkered with one.
Yeah, same. I need to get to where I keep saying that my goal last year was to have my garage cleaned out by spring. My goal this year is to have my garage cleared out by spring. We moved some things around, like moved some things out of the house into the garage to sell. And so I have a Seymour Duncan. I have an IKEA secretary desk in my garage that I'm trying to sell, that I have not sold yet. But there's that.
See, doing things in the garage is so wild to me, because you know what I use my garage for?
Cars.
To put my car in there. Yeah.
I have a car in my garage. I also have a workbench in my garage, and what I don't want to film. I'm not going to build a studio in my garage. I want to start doing like occasional builds. Like I want to take 2 hours or an hour or two a couple nights a week and just like, oh, I'm going to start building this pedal kit. Like I'd love to reach out to like a brand and say, hey, you guys have a pedal kit, send it to us. I'll build it or whatever.
I know a company that might be willing to do that. I'll hook you up.
Well, I need to clean my garage first.
Okay. You let me know when you're ready.
But yeah, we keep one car in the garage out of necessity. There's one really big question I'm going to come back to. I'm going to go hit this. Oh, there's a handful of questions around this.
Yeah.
But what are the best low watt boutique or reliable tube amps for gigging? I just want to crank it full blast without overkill. I think the answer to this kind of varies by like what you're trying to play and the kind of people that you're playing with.
What kind of music are you playing?
The smallest amp I have, I'm trying to think, the smallest amp that I've played live with. Well, in my head, the smallest amp I would be comfortable playing live with would be like a Fender Deluxe. So like right around that 20 watt point. The smallest amp I've actually probably played live with, which would have been years ago, was like a Hot Rod Deluxe. But I'm also thinking about very like shit like sound system situations, which
Yeah, where you have to. There is no mic on your amp.
yeah, which I
Okay,
mean,
so he
so
said
you might have
classic
some more.
rock, not super heavy. We need to. I think we really need to define: are you looking for boutique, reliable, or boutique and reliable? Because I can give you answers in all three of those categories, and they're not all the same. Uh, so first thing I'm going to point you to, just because I really like them, even though I don't have one anymore, just because I've gotten rid of combos in my life.
Mhm,
Take a look at Tyler amps.
mhm.
Tyler amps are a great hand wired amp company. John Brinton, I think, is the name of the guy who builds them.
Not John
Um,
Tyler? That's disappointing.
I know it's not Tyler. His name is not Tyler, but the reason I point to them is not just that they're great amps and that John is pretty active around, but they're great because the resale value isn't amazing because they're not Fenders or they're not
Mhm, mhm.
Marshalls or they're not, and so the resale value tends to be pretty good. Although they are starting to catch on a little bit. I'm seeing the regular used price go up a little bit, even when everything
Really?
else is going down. So, but he makes a Princeton size variant, a deluxe variant. He also makes a Marshall and a matchless variant as well of his amps. Yeah, he's got really, really great amps. I highly recommend those. I think they're going to be your dollar for dollar best
Mm, mhm.
option if you're looking for something that's a little more than like a PCB used Princeton reverb kind of thing.
And you think they like what would you recommend for a classic rock? Because I tend to think of Tyler for their Princeton's.
Yeah,
Like I
I do
think what the
too.
JT14 is a Princeton style amp, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the one. I had that one. He's also got though, he's got if you're not looking for the Fender thing, which he can do the JT14 and the JT22 are basically the same amp with more wattage.
Mhm.
In fact, he can take a JT14 and upgrade it to a 22 if that's what you want.
Yeah. There's a
Um,
JT46 on Reverb. That sounds like it would get the job done. It's a plexi style.
yeah, that one is great. I almost bought one before I stumbled on the Marshall I did buy.
Mm.
So highly recommend that if you're into a Marshall sound. If you are into more of the Vox or matchless sound, he's got the I forget his model numbers. I'm gonna pull it up real quick while we're talking because he's also got a tweed style amp called the 2020. It's a 20 watt um 2 channel, just volume tone kind of thing. Like a tweed deluxe, but it's a 20 watt version.
Mhm.
I had one of those. That's a killer sounding amp. Let's see. Looking at his amps, the HM30 is the Vox slash matchless type of thing.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
recommend all those. He also does a flip top bass amp.
Um, Quentin Hawley said that he just got a cowpoke in a trade. Are you familiar with the cowpoke?
Not at all.
Let me show you the cowpoke.
Yeah.
Uh, this is a Fender cowpoke bass. Was made in the mid 1990s.
Wait, I've played one of these.
It's
I
a
didn't know it was called the cowpoke
yeah,
though.
it's a because it's got that throwback old school P style. They were nicknamed the cowpoke bass. I think it's
Interesting.
also because of that, like a little that also that kind of extreme offset going on. It's not offset, but that extreme difference in the horns. Yeah, it got
Yeah.
the nickname the cowpoke bass.
I remember these. So I'm gonna tell you, just to be honest,
Mhm.
I hate concentric pots on instruments.
I've never played one.
I don't
Uh,
like them, and it comes down to the smoothness of the controls. Like if they don't sit just a little separated from each other, when you try to turn the top knob, it'll bind on the bottom knob, or say vice versa. You have to
mhm.
position them.
Right.
I just
That makes sense.
I don't play with enough finesse to be able to manage concentric pots.
Yeah. So yeah, this is I this is one of those bases that I've always wanted. And back in the time when I really wanted one, they were like
Mhm.
350. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, I'll just find one at 300 someday and get it. And now I think every single one on Reverb is over $700.
There's one at $699.99.
Okay. That's $700.
Yeah,
Don't
but
don't
it's
get
not over
it's
$700.
it's 7,500, it's $75 shipping. So
Oh, well, shit.
also it's white. Probably the one this sunburst one, the semi-transparent sunburst
Uh-huh.
is at CME, which is why it's $1,000.
Yeah.
So oh no, that one's in the UK. There I think that one may have originally been at also they're probably trying to up the price because they threw the Badass 2 on it.
Yeah, I just
But
no. Sorry. It's a great mod, but don't add value to it.
yeah.
It doesn't add value.
Let's see. Do you have a favorite acoustic amp, Robert McDowell? I don't. I don't have a take on these. I know Phil McKnight talks about I think the Fishman ones as being good, but
They're
I'm
fine. I've used the Roland, I've used the Fishman, I've used the Fender. I actually really like the Fender acoustic amp. I liked it a bunch. I so
the 150 or the junior or the
I
40.
don't I think I used the 200.
Is there a
Uh
200?
yeah, like it's the new series. So they've got like an acoustic
Oh,
100, they've got an acoustic I think 200. I'm looking now so I can not just completely talk out of my rear. I thought they
yeah. I
did.
was thinking of like the 90s ones.
Oh yeah, no, those are terrible. Stay away from those. They're awful.
Specifically, I was thinking of this one.
So they do make a 200. It's just not available on Sweetwater. I can't find it, but I found it on Fender's website.
Do you remember?
Oh
Do you
yeah, those
remember these?
things. Oh, woof. Dude, people will pay you to take those away now. They're
Oh
so
man.
yeah, avoid those. So I'll tell you, this is the truth. I sold my acoustic amp. I've bought a few more since then, but mostly because they were a flip. They weren't anything I was keeping. But I sold my Fender 200 because I had the Helix and I had power cabs. So I just played my acoustic guitar and my microphone into the Helix, and the power cabs were my PA. So that did everything. So
I
that
once again did the dumb thing, and apparently I don't know. I didn't realize that Ryan made a special Christmas background.
Oh yeah, yeah. Have you not noticed that?
Well, the last time we did a live, it had the 500th episode background on. So,
Oh, that's
uh,
right.
all right. Here's the big question. Um,
And
let's.
my Logify, I do see you. We're going to get to you as well.
Oh,
He's asked it twice, so I want to make sure he knows I'm going to get there.
all right. Let's just throw that one up. Let's bust that one out. Because.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't use it as often as I'd like. I love it,
mhm.
but it's a thing. I have a limited space, so I have to constantly move things in and out as I'm using them, and it's just oh man, to set that up and to get it going. But I do have a video I'm doing. I'm going to give myself a little time. I'm going to say maybe February it'll come out. I've got this Maestro Valvola off 1 octave filter fuzz.
Oh, okay.
This thing is so cool. And you can use an expression pedal to control the filter. So it gets almost like wah pedaled, but it's like, I don't know, it's a swell thing. I want to run the sub 37 through this real bad. I will tell you, if you are patient and you want to buy one new, the subs 37 has shown up twice on the stupid deal of the day from Musician's Friend at $12.99. And I have it on reasonable rumor. We're going to call it reasonable rumor that the new company that owns Moog is going to be discontinuing the sub 37. So, and the 25. So if you want to get one, be watching and be ready if you're into it. I love
And I think if they kill that product, it's gonna
Yep, it'll skyrocket in value because
it's gonna be GameStop.
I see the Sub 37 in every YouTube studio video I ever see. That is the unit.
So you're saying I need one. I don't need to play it. I just need it.
Yeah, you just need to
put
have
on
one.
the shelf back there.
That's it. What do you think mine's doing back there? But no, I do love that thing and I love playing it. So I highly recommend getting one if you're into the
Ew,
synth thing.
I don't like that.
Oh, that got real like in my face. I was like, got really self-conscious all of a sudden. I was like, I'm gonna hide behind this microphone.
All right, I want to hit this. Will Ferrell, not to be confused, spelled differently than William Ferrell, spelled differently than the actor. Any advice on starting a guitar YouTube channel? My advice, my first piece of advice is don't make your first video one where you don't understand the product that you're using. And then because you don't understand the product that you're using, you say that the product is broken. And
I feel like this is real pointed.
And then at the end, throughout the video, you talk about how much you love the pedal, but also how dumb the builder is. And then at the end, you say "fuck 60 cycle hum." Don't do that. That's not how to start a channel. Yes, this is a very pointed.
Yeah, no kidding.
If Justice is in the chat, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. I don't know if he made it this morning. No, real advice is just start making stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the one piece of advice that I think is still 100% true that Ryan and I have been giving people now since people started asking, which I don't know is maybe 8 years ago or however long ago we started making videos, maybe 6 years ago. I know we started making them like 8 years ago, but
yeah,
when it was like a real full-time thing was because there were people the question wasn't how to start a guitar YouTube channels. How do I get brands to send me new gear? Well, you don't. I mean, you do eventually, but
maybe
to start, I mean, this is the advice I'd give you, Philip, and you already know this. Like we've talked about this before. How many freaking pedals do you own? Ballpark, just ballpark me.
Why are you asking me such a personal question, Steve?
How many guitar pedals?
Rude. I think I did a count, and I've had a couple of things come in since then, so I'd say around 80.
80. So you already have 80 videos to make.
Actually, more than that if you do it right.
Yeah. No, that's just the base number. You have 80 videos to make.
Yep.
You have however many amps, so 80 plus that many amps.
Too many.
How many ever you can do a video per guitar, and then you say, how do I get this sound? Oh, you already did your a bunch of Univibe videos, but now you want this specific Hendrix vibe sound. So now you make that video. Now you've got 81 videos. You want this specific delay reverb combo. Now you've got 82 videos.
Yep.
Oh, what's a gigging pedal board look like for a Mississippi blues musician? Now you've got 83 videos. So that's how you start a guitar YouTube channel. That's always the advice I give is film the gear that you have.
Yeah. Just do it.
Don't get super perfectionist about it. I know that's really hard starting out. Just start putting things out there.
Yeah.
Make the kind of content that you would want to watch, I think is important. Maybe that puts you in a niche, a unique niche. Maybe it makes you the same as a lot of other channels. Maybe it just makes you more consistent. Find a consistent schedule, Don't drop 5 videos in 1 week and then don't release anything for 3 months.
I wanted to add this there before you move on about the whole niche or whatever. You don't even have to be niche. You could be doing the same thing other people are doing, and that's fine. Because remember, you might have some people who go, well, I already go to this person for that information, but your personality may mesh better with somebody and they prefer to hear you talk about that same subject, even if you said the exact same things. Also, don't wait. Don't do what I did. I wanted to start my YouTube channel 3-4 years before I did. Don't wait and think, oh, well, I got to get this camera and I've got to get this microphone and I've got to get this. Oh, I got to do my lighting. I got to do the background. No, you don't. You have a cell phone. Make a video.
Yeah.
Start.
Yeah. We talked earlier about doing the Sony thing, but like, if I don't figure that out, I may just start filming stuff. Like I've got the audio rig, so I can record on the computer.
Yeah.
I have a video idea in mind that is no guitar playing. It's just I want to make a fun video, and I may just film it on my phone using the mic audio to give a little more ambiance.
Yeah.
Ambiance. That sounded so gross.
It did. I'm pretending you didn't say it. It's fine.
But like that's an idea. Like if you have an idea, just film it and put it out there.
Yeah.
Find things that work.
Michael Krause, I think Phil McKnight still uses his phone on occasion.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think he's an iPhone guy, but the point is taken. He definitely used whatever phone he had for a long time. So I think those are the big things that for me that I think about when people say, and I know it's like the other thing is lighting. One of the reasons I don't film right now that at least I tell myself why I don't film is lighting.
Yeah.
I talked about this on Tuesday with Ryan. I've got some weird pedals that like are less like that are kind of just noise machines where I think I can just like do some drop D riffs and they'll be fun because they're mostly noisy. So I don't even have to play good, which is perfect.
Oh, that's another one. You don't have to be a great guitar player to start a YouTube channel.
You should probably be better than me though.
You just got to be okay. You just got to be good. You got to be good enough to play a couple of chords. Because
that's my biggest problem is like I need to just get comfortable with like I'm just going to play some chords.
That's it. Yeah. Play some chords. You can do a couple of single note lines if you really feel comfortable doing it. But honestly, my favorite content is I don't watch demo videos anymore pretty much ever. Which is wild. Unless I'm actively shopping for a piece of gear. I'm not waiting on Ryan to drop his next demo. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm not like, oh, what's Ryan? What is that kooky ginger up today? I guess he's blonde. He's not a ginger, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not sitting around waiting for the next RJ Ronquillo demo video to drop, even though I love RJ. I don't care about that stuff. I want to hear conversations. I want to, even if they're short, that's going to be my next tip, by the way. If you're starting a channel, this is where I have royally screwed up. Don't start with hour-long videos. Don't do it.
Yeah. And this lighting. So the thing that I was saying with lighting is that where the way my room is set up right now, I don't think there's anywhere I can film easily in my room without casting a shadow onto whatever I'm trying to film.
Yeah.
That if it were a product. So like right now on my desk, I'm holding my hands above my desk and I'm casting like one shadow, one per hand basically.
Yeah. I ran into that problem here, and that's one of the things that stopped me. I couldn't find a way to illuminate the product or the pedal or whatever I'm doing very easily. So I got lucky and I found like a ridiculous Manfrotto tripod stand at a Goodwill for $12.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I found it in the Atlanta. It was a while back. I went to Atlanta to hang out with Jason and the whole Working Class Music crew, and hung out with them and some other folks while I was there. And I stopped in the Goodwill and I found this insane tripod stand. And so it's one of the kind where like the tripod sits and then there's an arm that goes way out.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So that's what I did. And I literally have now this like $15 ladder style book stand that I bought off Facebook Marketplace. I have a $10 Fred's lamp when Fred still existed. next to it, and the arm stretches out over it. So that's where I'm going to put the pedals, right here on my left, when I do demos.
Gotcha. Cool.
It's real simple. It doesn't have to be big. Now, if I do any massive products, that's not going to work. So I have to figure something else out. But for the majority of pedals, it's perfect. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah. Let's see. So we hit that one. I want to hit this one. Are you familiar with this product? I
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
So
You are?
yeah, I got to play it last year.
Did you the fuzz?
Yep.
Oh wow. I've been
Well, no, I
wanting
guess I got to play it this year, but like 9 months
it's still
ago.
this year. In a few hours you can say it was last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like the idea of it. Let me put
Mhm.
I haven't played it.
It's really fun.
Mhm.
When I played this at NAMM last year. I checked out Kernum because I had heard the Ridge push so freaking hard on Guitar Nerds.
Yeah.
Um, and in that group as well. Um, but I went over there. The Ridge is fine, like, but it's an overdrive. It's a good overdrive, but it's an overdrive.
Exactly. It's an
Um,
overdrive.
you know, and so it does more things, but also, it's a $300 overdrive. I guess the Moho is a I say dollars, these are euros. The Moho is a 350 euro, or because Ryan gets confused by the European comma, a 349,000 euro uh, fuzz. Um, but the Moho is a lot of fun. It does some uniquely weird things. I think we are trying to get. I know there have been some emails back and forth between us and Kernum in
Okay.
the last month or so. With NAM coming up, I don't know where that sits. But I know there's at least been some conversation. But I've been wanting to, like, when I heard that at NAM, I played it. The guys, they had a dual headset, a dual
Yeah,
headphone
yeah.
rig, so they could like turn the knobs while you were playing, which is very nerve wracking for me. Not because, like, I know like a lot of people don't like those because they just want to explore the pedal on their own. They don't want to be guided.
Yes.
I don't like them because I don't want other people to hear me play. That he went through. He's like, oh, da 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 da. And we started talking. I go, you know what? Like, I'm the wrong person to talk to about this. Let me go find uh, the guy who does my videos at NAM. I like to talk to people at NAM as if like I'm Ryan's manager.
Aren't you
Uh,
though?
so I mean, so I ran back. I found Ryan. I was like, dude, you have to try this. Did not try it the first day. This next day, I'm like, dude, you have to try this. I still don't think he tried it. And then finally, I got him to try it. I maybe at the end of that day, maybe it was the end of the second day, I got him to try it, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, this is rad." So
Okay.
it's really cool what it does, and it sounds really good. Um, so yeah, I have heard of it, and I know there's not. Someone said that in the blues, Sassy said that in the blues just made it. Um, so there's that. Let's see. Going back a bit before, I
Yeah.
know Joe asked a question about NAML, and we'll get to that. Um, do you shield your guitars? I think that is the question here.
No.
Um,
If they came shielded, they're shielded. So, but I have never gone out of my way to shield a guitar that I own.
I know Mike Adams is a big proponent of shielding as like one of the first things that he does to a lot of guitars. And if Mike does it, I believe it's useful.
Same.
But I'm also in the same boat of like that I haven't done it. Um, I found with all of my single coil guitars, when I was playing in church, the noise I would get was very directional. So I would
Mhm.
usually just try to find a way to stand
Turn.
perpendicular to wherever that noise source was.
You do the 60
Unfortunately,
cycle twist.
unfortunately, with the way like more and more modern like church services are designed, there are lights everywhere.
Yep.
The other thing that I would do a lot is we had those like robot lights. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
know what,
yeah, yeah.
like
The smart
they're
lights.
um remote controlled and whatever to like turn different ways and do different patterns, and we had a couple of those. So I would bring an extension cord to try to get my where I plugged in my uh pedal board, or my pedal board, HX Stomp, whatever
Mhm.
I was running, to plug that in as far away from wherever those lights were plugged in. Sometimes it would just be like the next circuit panel over.
Yeah.
So probably with an old church building, it's still all on the same circuit, but at least that initial source is somewhere else.
I'll tell you why I don't shield. Look at the guitars behind me. Uh, you can't shield that.
Humbucker, humbucker,
Can't
humbucker.
shield that.
I mean,
Can't
you could shield underneath.
underneath, yeah, but, like, there's no pick guard
That's
on
not going to
top
do
to
a lot.
shield.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
there's one guitar that you can see that's, shieldable under a pick guard kinda thing. Also, I do play P90s a lot, and they do get
Mhm.
noisy, and I've just gotten really good at dealing with it. It's
Yeah,
never
yeah.
only once, I think, ever been so much noise that I could not deal with it.
Yeah,
Oh, hi, Amanda. Uh,
there's a
and
whole lot of
and
hellos.
Martian and Murray, there's lots of hello
Yeah,
people joining us. Look
Joan
at
is
all this.
in. We never did hellos at the beginning.
No, we didn't. We just jumped right into it. We just questions immediately.
Wickershire has a bunch more questions. FX loop type amps over non-FX. I was dying on Threads the other day. You posted your people who think modelers are fine have just never turned up a tube amp
No,
or
no,
whatever.
we gotta get the quote right. People who say modelers sound just as good as tube amps have never spent enough time with tube amps at appropriate volumes.
Yeah, yeah. And my response, maybe you just haven't played a modeler at the appropriate
At
volume.
appropriate volume. No,
I,
it's
I
good.
that was like half joking, but I know it's years ago my church got a Roland TD20
Mm,
drum kit, which at that time the TD20 was the flagship model.
yeah.
Um and the of course we got it to try to like go quieter stage, especially because drums are like harder to harness. And what
Yeah.
happens with drums is, okay, you're going to put in a plexiglass shield. Also, we had a baptismal, so my old church building was designed for choirs, like, and so
As
we
many were.
we set up in the front of a stage, um and then behind us is this big like cove, basically, that if you put up a drum shield, it would just shoot the drums straight back,
Yep.
and they would bounce off the back of that, because again, it's this area that's designed to like naturally amplified choirs. Now it's just drum shield, hits the drum shield, goes backwards, hits that, and then goes forward. So now you're just getting the drums in the back of the room on a slight delay,
Yeah.
and it makes it more muddy. Um, but so we got this Roland TD20, and now all of a sudden, hooray, we can run the drums at like 70 dB or whatever we need it to come out of the front of house at. But it sounded like dick.
Yeah.
And why? And the thing that we found messing around with it is, at one point we would creep, we would creep, we would creep. And at some point, I don't remember if it was for a rehearsal or maybe we did like a service that was not like a Sunday morning service. It was like something else. And we turned that TD20 kit up to like, I don't know, probably 90, 93, 95 dB, like a volume that's loud,
Yeah.
but not blowing the roof off like an acoustic kit will,
Right.
right? And it sounded awesome. Now, does it have the feel of an acoustic kit? Does it have the rebound? Now, this is mesh heads,
Yeah.
rubber cymbals, all that stuff. It doesn't one-to-one mimic, and I know drummers will still complain about that. But the thing that like a lot of people complained about were, oh, well, like, and literally at that before we turned that up, you could sit in the front row of the church and you would hear the pads over the drum being piped through the speakers.
Yeah.
That's how quiet it was. Um, and so once you turn that up where you're not hearing the pads over things, they sounded great. And this was 15-ish years ago,
Yeah.
15 years
I
ago.
think the Roland kit is still the as sound wise, it's the best sounding electric
Yeah.
kit. I
Yeah.
think they have all the best features and they just get better as you go up their line until you get to ridiculous money. But they sound good.
Yeah.
I
Um,
I don't know. It's a tough one for me. If my last church gig that I had for a couple of years before I moved, we actually had real drums on stage.
mm,
Uh so we had real drums behind a shield, and so because our music director wanted a quieter stage, didn't want a silent stage. So
yeah.
and yep, Fuzzamp did send me a pedal. It's right here. Going to be a video on this one coming out in 2024.
We had these drums, and I cannot remember the brand of them. They're local.
Uh-huh.
It was a local-ish brand. Gosh. And what they specialized in, what the heck was the name of the brand? Vizio, something like that. Um, Muzio.
Oh, Muzio. Okay.
Let me share this because I think these are kind of cool. I'm going to navigate this website a little. Muzio drums. Let me just pull up some of the
Oh yeah,
products.
so they look like real drums.
Yeah, so some of these are, let's see, Element Professional Series represent a pinnacle in electronic drumming. So it's all the standard Burt shells, whatever, but it's all designed to be used with sensors.
Yep.
And then all of your cymbals, let's see, do we have the cymbals themselves here? Are these like super um drilled out cymbals? So they give you 90% of the feel of a real cymbal with also like 10% of the volume of a real cymbal.
Right.
Um, so those are pretty cool. And then they're hybrid drum. It's the hybrid drums. These are like they're kind of like mesh heads, but not exactly.
Yeah.
So we had one of these kits in my church that was paired with, let's see, not that one. Is that the only one they have? We had a Pearl module that we
Okay.
used. So
Have you seen these? You don't have to go directly to it, but I'm gonna share a screen. Have you seen these?
I haven't. No,
This
that's
is
new.
the flagship Roland V drum. This is their electronic drum kit.
Okay, that's the new one.
Yeah. So
I have not seen these.
they are absolutely wild. I mean, just ridiculous amount of connections. They
And of
look
course,
like drums.
you're gonna pay. Obviously, it's 8 grand.
8 grand. It's
Um,
just wild.
but I mean, how much is just the TD50 head, the TD50 brain by itself?
Oh, I have no idea.
Is 3 grand, is $2,900.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm looking at kits, and the Roland V Drum TD50 KV2, which is the mesh kit, is more expensive than the one that you just showed.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
exactly.
8,400.
Oh my
So
gosh.
going back to this question
Yeah.
though, um, uh, I I've used effects amps, effects loop amps. I've used non-effects. I'm on just non-effects at this point. I'm
Mhm.
not doing anything where I'm like, oh, I really wish my chorus. One, I'm just not pushing, even with like my little Gamatron back there, 2.8 watts. I just don't. Maybe if I was in a live situation where I was like really pushing, I'd all of a sudden be like, wow, this amp is like on the edge of breakup over time, and I'm hitting it too hard with this chorus pedal.
Yeah, or
So it's like,
delays. Delays are a big issue
yeah,
with because the compression brings up the repeats and
yeah.
makes them too loud, and it's almost impossible to get that like underneath delay sound that people love.
Mhm.
Uh,
But in reality, like in again, it just depends on what you're trying to do with it. I've found in like 90% of playing contexts, It doesn't matter.
If you are running the amp distorted, and that
Mhm.
means that you are cranking it loud enough that you're getting power amp distortion, or it's got a second channel for distortion,
Yeah.
and you want your delays and you um want your delays and reverbs especially to sort of not run away from you, then use the
Yeah.
effects loop. If you're not using the amp like that, you're good. Go straight into the front of it.
Yeah. And I think what because I think Edge of Breakup replied on that about using
Oh
using like
yeah.
an aux box to run. I think it was an aux box or a tube amp expander, one of those kinds of things, to run the effects completely after the amp, which
Yep.
some folks do. Um,
Isn't
I'm
that what the Boss tube amp expander was good at too?
yeah,
It adds an
yeah,
effects loop.
yeah.
Yeah.
Same Wickershire project. Speaker ohm, which value allows for higher wattage? It's going to be amp dependent. The lower the impedance, the higher it's going to be,
Yes.
but there are limitations to that. So you don't want to typically, I know the old, I don't know if this has changed, but the old conventional way of thinking was with tube amps, you could mismatch one one
When it's
rating
100% either
direction.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So if your amp is designed for 8 ohm, an 8 ohm output, you could use a 4 ohm speaker, an 8 ohm speaker, or a 16 ohm speaker. At
Especially like vintage Fenders because they were really overbuilt for for
yeah,
the power transformer.
at 16 ohms, say it's a 50-watt amp. At 16 ohms, you're really only going to be getting like 25 watts worth out of that amp. But I don't think at 4 ohms you're going to get more than 50.
Yeah. No.
So, but some folks, because if you want a specific speaker, you that's a something you can live with.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do more than that. If you run, I've never run a 4 ohm head into a 16 ohm cab. I've just never tried it, so I can't say whether that would do anything. Um, let's take this question. Joan wants to know what are we looking forward to at NAM? And there was a second question that went along with this. Oh, in terms of she says, what are you guys looking forward to doing at NAM? Videos, etc. Are you gonna do any videos at NAM?
Man, I that's the thing that I am constantly debating whether I'm going to even attempt videos. I'm going to bring my camera. That's what I know. I'm going to bring my
Mhm.
camera. Obviously, I'll have my phone. I I think what I'm going to end up doing. I was actually talking to Jason about this yesterday. I think I'm going to bring my camera and I'm going to get a bunch of B-roll
Mhm.
and then figure out what I'm going to do with that. Because I don't think I'm going to be one of the nut jobs like Ryan, who decides to try to film on the noisy floor of NAM, even a slightly smaller NAM. You know what I
Right.
mean? Have you looked at the map recently, by the way? I want to talk about this.
I haven't.
So let me talk about this. I'm going to pull it up, then I'll share it.
Oh,
There
for
are
the
a
oh,
lot
real
of
quick,
brands that weren't there the last time we looked at this.
real quick. I am planning on doing trying to do 2 videos. There's one video I definitely want to do.
Okay.
None of them are like playing, but there's a couple video ideas that I have. I need to pull off at least one of them.
Okay.
But they're like man on the street kind of videos. So
I think we
um
talked about doing a 60 cycle yum while we're there as well.
oh
We'll
yeah, yeah.
yeah, we'll have to do that. So let me see. I'm gonna share this. Present, share screen. Here we go. So
My favorite thing at NAM is still just like people watching.
yeah.
So
So this is the NAM floor, the main floor, which is really most of it at this for this year.
mhm,
I'm not gonna go through everything. We're gonna stay down here, which is sort of guitar land.
mhm.
Um, I'll tell you there were a few surprises on this list. You see how there's not as many empty booths anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything's full as far as I can tell. Um, You got, obviously, because I'm a shill and like expensive things. Two Rock Boots going to be right there, so I'm going to spend some time over there. But speaking of, I think Mule is there, Huss and Dalton. There's a bunch of booths like this, but here's one that surprised me: JHS pedals.
It's actually JHS pedals, not John Henry Skews.
Exactly. JHS has a booth, which is interesting because Josh has talked a lot about how he has said he doesn't think they'll ever go back to NAMM.
No, this is
Is this a different
5810.
JHS?
I'm trying to.
Because it's over here in the guitar
That's
world.
John Hornby Skews.
Oh, is it really?
Yep, because that's a shared booth with Vintage, Fret King, Rapier, and
Oh,
Joe Doe.
that's hyper confusing then.
Yeah, so that is the British
JHS.
JHS.
That's super
People
confusing.
have complained among Joshua Heath Scott, JHS pedals, gets accused of a lot of things,
Yeah.
some of which have more or less merit. And one of the more wild things that they have been accused of is knowing that John Hornby Skews existed as a store and intentionally calling themselves JHS pedals to piggyback off of the UK store.
That's why that doesn't make any sense. That
Which
doesn't
I
make
think
any sense
is
whatsoever.
silly.
It's literally his initials.
Um,
But yeah, so a lot of these booths have filled though. Novo will be there. Seymour Duncan, a lot of the big ones. Sire has a bigger booth.
oh, Ian clarifies JHS is a distributor.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Gotcha.
so.
Let's see. But I don't know. I was really surprised to see all the booths sort of fill up.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's
Yeah,
good.
it's real good. So I'm super excited, but I'm not going to try to
It
bring a
looks
camera in this mess and try to film anything of value.
right. It's tricky. I mean, there's ways to do it. I think with the media badges, you can get in like an hour early if you know specifically what you want to do.
Yeah.
There are demo rooms. They're trying this whole, I'm like cruising around. I don't know where the hell it is on the
So
map.
there's one up by the coffee station. They're yellow.
Yeah.
And there's some around the edges. So you see here, there's a demo room over here by Worship Musician Magazine and Game Changer Audio and all those. There's really not that many. I don't like how few there are. There's a couple up here. There's two by the drum room, by the drum section.
Well, they said that, and I saw it on an earlier map that there's like a some kind of influencer space.
Yeah, I have
I'm
not
not
seen what
seeing
that
it.
would be. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. It must be something marked in a way that I would not recognize it.
Yeah, up on the far end of the building. So if you go up, I think it's this green, not that one, the next green star over. That's the media center.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that one's been up before though. That's the one where I think like 3 or 4 years ago we all crashed the Get Offset demo or podcast. A bunch of us crashed that. But I thought there was supposed to be like they called it like influencer
Yeah.
base or something, but I'm not seeing it. Creator, is it creator? And I don't know if that's on. I reached out to NAM.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't try super hard. I just sent them an email and said, "Hey, y'all went on the JHS show and said you're doing this thing.
I'm gonna stop
Ryan
the
and
share, by the way.
Ryan and I have, this is like our 9th year or something at NAM, 8th or 10th year, 9th year. I'm not sure at NAM. We would love to have a conversation about this. If basically saying like if you want to have a conversation with a somebody in this creator space, let us know. And I don't know where that email went. So I tried.
Gotcha.
I didn't try hard, but I tried.
I'm dropping the link for the NAMM show map in the chat.
Yeah.
Oh, it won't let me. It only let me share it to my live chat. So
Yeah. So Joan says is the influencer area, the media center, and like I said, I think it's supposed to be different. On an earlier version of the map that I saw, it was different because it wasn't a sponsored space. That media center is technically a sponsored space.
yeah.
But like I said, now I'm not seeing it, but I'm also not seeing any of the pro audio stuff is in a whole other freaking building. I don't even know if I'm going to go over there.
Yeah, I want to. I don't know that I'm going to.
Go hang out with the warm audio folks.
Actually, I think they're in the main building with guitars.
Oh, did they move?
Let me do
they have more than one?
They're in 3 locations.
Okay.
No, you're right. It's over there in the other booth. Sorry, in the other building.
Andrew Collins says a lot of these companies lose money on NAMM. They don't get the bang for the buck at NAMM anymore. I agree. There's definitely some problems with that, and I don't know what the fix is. And some of it is like the cost of things. I was in a thread somewhere. I don't remember if it was on Facebook, but there was a guy who was with a cable company who kept talking about how like, oh, it was $50,000 for our booth. He kept saying that it's $50,000 for our booth. And I remember the company, they were a cables and accessories company, and they got like a giant booth. I don't know, like
why
they would show up with like 2,000 products.
Oh, why?
Or whatever, right? Like it was massive. So that's the kind of thing where they're like, oh yeah, we even when I was doing it 10 years ago or whatever, we weren't getting our money's worth. And I was like, well, yeah, like of course you weren't, because you're a freaking cable company.
Right.
But
that just sounds like bad business decisions.
Yeah, it comes down to a couple things. It comes down to like you got to have retailers showing up. If retailers aren't showing up, it really doesn't matter, because the reality is that sometimes it's nice to do the face-to-face. I do think from a creator, influencer, whatever the hell you want to call what we do, perspective, I think the brands appreciate like the handshake, or the wave if they are less prone to handshakes. But they appreciate the face-to-face, and sometimes it gets you, maybe they're waffling between they only want to work with 6 creators, and they've got 5 locked down, and they're trying to figure out the 6th. And so showing up to NAMM in person can help me make that connection, or help Ryan make that connection.
That's what I'm going for. I want to make that connection because I have an interview podcast, and scheduling people.
And so for you, hard. Like that's good too. But as far as other things like that, I just don't really know what the what that looks like, and whether or not brands like Donner has a huge booth. Neural has a huge booth. I don't know.
Yeah,
I really
Neural's got a massive booth,
and they do performances. Like they'll have Shred City going on there for 6 of the 8 open hours of the day. So
wow.
I'm gonna close that out.
Korg has a really big booth.
Yeah, but Korg has a lot of brands.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, Martin has a massive booth.
Yeah. Martin still does NAMM old school, where they use NAMM to show, like, because they do like, oh, here's the case for the serial number 2.5 million.
Yeah.
Here's all of our hand painted guitars. Here's this here. So they kind of do that old school, like, here's where we show the vintage stuff. Sassy says Mel will be in the parking garage. Ryan told me that Mel has a booth this year. Mel from Alameda Guitars.
Oh,
So I will get to meet him in person, because last year I think Ryan just like got a text that was like, "Hey, meet me in the parking garage."
he does have a. They do have a booth right behind. They're in the same like block with Novo and One Control,
Oh,
and
cool.
right next to Jamie Tyndall and Insane Skins.
Oh, Insane Skins.
Yeah,
Um, Going back, uh, this should just be the Wickershire Project Off Grid episode.
I know, right?
Are tube amps slowly going away versus solid state? I think I have heard the Shoe Gang factory is open again,
It
or
is,
has
or is about to
plans
be.
to open. I think we're gonna get to a balance once the tube supply is like fully, because I've heard some people say that there's not a good source right now for, what is it, EL, no, for 6L6s, there's not a good source. So if the Shoe Gang factory can,
I thought it was six
um
V6s.
is it six, is it the smaller one, the 6V6?
Yeah, I think it's the six V6s that are tough to find right now. Not
um
not really tough. They're not truly hard, but they're a little more expensive than you'd like. Um, but the bigger issue than even those, what is the number one most used backline bass amp, Steve? Most commonly backlined.
Most
Oh,
commonly backlined bass amp?
yeah,
I don't know. I would assume it's some sort of mid-tier Ampeg.
it's the Ampeg SVT.
Is it the SVT?
It's still the SVT. It is still the SVT, and the SVT uses 6550 tubes.
Yeah.
That Chinese factory was almost the only manufacturer of
Oh, I did not
6550s.
know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe it was something like I mean, I guess the SVT. I don't even know what other, why is their website garbage? Maybe
I don't
I'm
know.
garbage. I was thinking it might have been something like the PFs, like that tear down series.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, it's
What
it's
was the old
still.
one? The B2R. That's the head I'm thinking of,
Oh,
but
yeah, I
it
remember
doesn't
those.
exist
I
anymore.
remember when Galen Kruger used to be on every backline I played too, but
Yeah,
the
or GK. That's a
yeah, but all the acts, they move with, these SVTs, and there's tons in backline companies, and they use one, two, a lot, 6,
mhm.
8 of 6550s. So, and that factory was the one supplying those. So that was a problem that they didn't exist anymore. But thankfully they're back up. But I'm gonna say something that I can't verify as truth. But I think there are more guitar tube amps being made today
Mhm.
than at any point in the 1960s or 70s.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. That I
I'm gonna put that out there because yeah, maybe Fender isn't making as many as they used to, and maybe Marshall's not making as many as they used to, but there's a lot more companies out there filling that void.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and if you go back to like the 60s, I bet Fender makes more Hot Rod Deluxes in a given year than they made in for their entire tube amp output in like 1965.
Almost certainly.
Like of
Almost
just a
certainly.
single model. You know,
Yeah.
I would be willing to put a small sum of money on that. Um
Yeah, but as Ryan has you gamble, Steve.
yeah,
So
yeah,
as
that's
we've
true.
talked about. But
Um
yeah, so I think this conversation has been going for most of my lifetime. I think it's going to go for the rest of my lifetime. Um,
yeah.
I don't think I have a friend of mine. May have I talked about this on a live stream. I have a friend of mine that goes to a lot of shows
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
Goes to a bunch, and I have had him
We talked about
sending
this
me.
on Gear of the Year.
Oh, that's right. I talked about it on the Gear of the Year. I have had him sending me photos of every gig he goes to, every show, whether it is a
Mhm.
stadium touring act or local bar gig, and have him send me pictures of the rigs that the guitar players are playing. And he goes to anywhere between 50 to 100 shows a year.
Yeah.
I have yet to see a modeler on a single stage. I've yet to see one at any of the shows he's been to. And
Interesting.
it's because in these small rooms that don't have great PA support, the amp is still the best option. Now, were all of those tube amps? Most of them, I can't guarantee all of them were, but the
Sure.
majority of them were tube amps, and they weren't wild things. They were Hot Rod Deluxes, PV Classic 50s. They
Right.
were, you know
Right.
what I mean? Deluxe reverbs. That's the
I
thing.
I can say I went to probably. I think I went to 3 concerts this year. Did I go to more than 3? I went to 3 that I can remember.
Mhm.
One of them was all direct as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
If there were amps, they were all backline, like they were all off stage. Um, One I went to definitely had amps on stage because one of the guitar players. Well, I went and saw the first one. The first one I'm thinking of was the May. I went to see May and the Juliana Theory. I think they were running all direct, both bands.
Yeah.
The second show I went to was Copeland and Brian Lawrenson, who, if you're not familiar with Copeland, Brian Lawrenson was the guy behind Quiet Theory.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So he hit is actually very amusing because his pedal board and his brother was playing guitar. I think it was his brother was also playing guitar. They have all of the like latest stuff. They both had Quiet Theories. They both had like Julias. They both had DRVs. They had it was a very modern board. I think one of them, if not both of them, had cloudbursts.
Sure.
And then Brian was running through, I think, a Vinny, Benson Vinny, or a Benson Nathan Jr. I forget which one,
Yeah.
but it's one of the smaller Bensons. Um, and then I forget what his brother was running through, but then the singer guitarist, who's like the rhythm guitarist, Aaron, his pedal board looked like, well, he didn't have a pedal board. He had 4 pedals thrown on the ground.
Love it.
And so and all of his stuff was like a DoD 250, an Ibanez 10 series. I think it was the 10 series delay. No, not 10 series. 7 series delay.
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah, yeah.
It was just like this. It was like it was a tour for their first, like a 20th anniversary tour for their first album, and I think he was using the same pedals that he probably used to make those to make that album. That's what it felt like. So I think it really depends on the shows that you're going to. Oh, the last one
Yeah.
was Death Cab, and you're so far away from the stage, I have no idea.
You have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, some people are like, aren't modelers off stage? I mean, not all of these shows that I'm talking about, there are pedal boards with a tube amp, and you can
Right.
see it. And yeah, maybe your big acts, your biggest acts, biggest touring acts, they make a compromise too to have the modelers, but because it makes sense for them. You know, they're not schlepping everything into the back of a van, which you think would be the best case for a modeler. But a lot of the places these bands are playing are small rooms with not the most amazing PA systems. Sometimes there's not even a dedicated sound guy. But even when there is, the I still play, and a lot of the venues around here, unless you're playing, you know, rooms that are like 1,000 cap or more,
Mhm.
the PA is basically to get the vocals out and maybe your bass drum. Everything else is still off the stage. And so people are still using amps for the stuff I'm seeing. Now, Joe Branton made the point on Guitar Nerds. I think he did, or at least maybe we've just talked about it separately. You know, if you're in a city where you're using public transit to get to your gigs,
Mhm.
something like a Helix or a Quad Cortex makes way more sense. Completely more sense.
Yeah.
But I don't. And I don't, you know, even I love every time I see a band, especially big bands, that are still using tubes. Hey, you're still using amps on stage.
Sassy says, could someone? Oh, because Matthew asked. Let me. Uh, will tube manufacturers be popping up? I know there was a big thing a while ago. There's a company called Western Electric based
Yep.
out of Georgia that is supposedly going to be making tubes. Well, they make a 300B, which is like a hi-fi tube. I don't know if they make anything else, but they did put out a questionnaire a survey a while ago to
Mm-hmm.
talk about um, making other tubes for like guitar amp
Sure.
manufacturing, but I don't know where that basically where that is, if it's happening.
So I know that I was able to find, I started tracking this a few minutes ago to try to see if I could find the article. And this may not be who is being talked about, but there is a company called Edmund Optics that is investing in a new Florida facility manufacturing for electron tubes and X-ray source. So tubes are guitar manufacturing, guitar amps are not the last bastion of tubes.
Right.
They're still used in a lot of medical technology. They're still used in a lot of other technology. So it's not like we're the last people using the vacuum tube. So especially X-ray machines, that's a big one.
Oh, I
Use
didn't I
use
didn't know that.
yeah, use vacuum tube technology, but it's not the same. They're very different. Let me see if I can
Right.
find them. Let me see if I can find a picture. They look quite different than what we're used to seeing, but they are used in that technology. There's not really great pictures of this because I can get individual pictures of the tube, but once they're in the machine, they're like encased in metal, and
Oh, okay.
you can't
Gotcha.
really like see a picture of them in operation kind of thing. I'm trying to find one though because I think it's real cool. Anyway, neither here nor there. The point is, we are the majority of the last, but
Yeah.
we're not the only.
Yeah.
So I don't think that manufacturer down in Florida is going to be making guitar tubes.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah, it looks like it's a laser optics factory.
yeah, exactly. I don't think, at least if that's the one, that is not the one that Sassy's talking about, or Snarky. I can't
Uh,
remember who said it now.
yeah. There's some questions about what big bands are using it. I think it's kind of, uh,
Yeah.
I
For
don't,
NJ
a
mentions
lot
the Edge. The Edge said he's
edge.
swapping to
Yeah.
them for the Sphere shows. He didn't say
Okay.
he's permanently swapping to UA pedals. For the
Gotcha.
Sphere shows in Las Vegas, that run, he was using modelers. He was using the UA Ruby. Now, will he continue to use them on the road? Maybe. I
Hmm.
don't know. That's fine. But also, the Edge uses the most unreliable amplifier ever built, the Vox AC30, the vintage Vox AC30.
Hmm. So
So
the most unreliable.
I'm using hyperbole. They are notoriously unreliable.
Were you the one who was talking about, or was I the I don't remember if I read this in an article or if you were the one who brought this up, that Brian May. So Brian May is famous for his wall of Vox. He would show up to shows, I think, with 12, it was either 9 or 12 Vox
Oh my
AC30s
gosh.
that were like the Brian May, treble boost only,
Yeah.
right? Uh and I always thought that he ran like all of them at once. But I
Oh
read
no.
an article recently that it wasn't that he ran them all at once, it's that he ran them all until basically he would run them like 3 at a time. And
And they
then
would break.
the first row, once one of the amps in the first row went down, they would switch to the next row. And basically, in the course of a 2 hour, 3 hour, whatever Queen show, he would break 9 amplifiers.
And they would fix them for the next show and go on.
Yeah. Um.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I was not me talking about it. I think I either read the same article or heard somebody talking about it as well.
Okay. Um. Getting to this, does pedal chain signal matter? Um. I don't want to get too into the specifics because there were some additional things. I'll just say yes. Um
Yeah, same.
It's
It matters.
I would say that the chain doesn't matter if you're not planning on like running two of them at the same time, with the exception of like certain fuzzes they want to interact directly with your guitar. Um, but yeah, if they're running an overdrive into a delay is going to sound different than running a delay into an overdrive. Um, and I do know that like people have pointed out on Ryan's videos that he puts his delay after his reverbs, and people all will ask like, why do you do that? And it's because he's going for a specific sound, and he runs them in that specific order. I know, because he's kind of trying to emulate the way that Fender outboard reverbs were ran, which was
Yeah.
before the amp. So that's that putting the delay after reverb. That's all intentional. It's not for everybody. It's not conventional, but it
No.
is intentional. Wow,
Well,
that's a fun rhyme.
another one that's interesting, the one I battle constantly is, do I put reverb before or after rotary speaker?
Mm,
Because there's a mentality that, the rotary speaker is last in the chain if you were to use a real one,
hmm.
except that then you deal with the room reverb after the
Right.
speaker. So it's like I did settle on reverb before rotary because I found the other way around, it sort of you lost some of the rotary effect.
Hmm.
And I wanted the rotary to be more prevalent than the reverb. If you want the opposite, you do the other way around. Same thing with some people with tremolo and reverb. A lot of
Yeah.
people's normal mentality is to put reverb after tremolo. But in Fender amps that have both of them, the reverb comes before the tremolo. So you're going reverb into tremolo in a Fender amp. So it's all up to what you want to sound like. I mean, there's no like it's gonna break it
Hmm.
doing it the other
Hmm.
way around. It's just gonna be a different sound, and it might work for what you want to do, but it also just may sound like trash.
Yeah. This is a Vox AC30 question. Did it keep up with the drummer during live back then? Uh, I mean, it keeps up. Oh, I made it disappear. I didn't mean to. Um, I mean, it keeps up with live now, I think. The one of the things that I think is really interesting that is part of that magic of it all is the legendary speaker of the Vox AC30, the Celestian Blue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the things that uh, gets missed when a lot of people say like, "Oh, is this amp going to keep up? Is that amp going to keep up?" One, the Vox AC30s run hot. They push. It's a Class A amp, very high output. But also the Celestian Blue is a 100 decibel sensitivity speaker. So at 1 watt, at 1 watt at 1 meter, it's going to put out 100 decibels. Uh, I think it's 1 watt at 1 meter is how they measure that. And it's going to put out 100 decibels, or the sensitivity is 100 decibels. So when you compare that to, say, I'm trying to think of what like another speaker to compare that to. Um, I don't know what the Wharfdales had in it, but let's just say like the Celestian. Uh, what's the shitty one?
Oh, I know the ones you're talking about.
Do they even sell them straight to? Oh,
The
like
wharf, the Wharfdales weren't great, but
yeah, the 7080s are actually 98, so they're a little more sensitive than I was thinking of.
I
And
didn't like those
sensitivity is not
either.
everything, so I shouldn't say shitty, but like,
Yeah.
but the G12 T75s are a 97 decibel
Uh huh.
speaker. The old PV Blue Marvels, I think, was like a 94 decibel speaker.
Really?
It was very like it's something really lightweight like that.
Huh.
Um, Now again, like sensitivity doesn't equal uh quality. It doesn't mean it's good or it's bad,
Right.
but what it
It's
means
a
is that
different thing.
it's quieter. And by having a 100 decibel speaker in a Vox AC30, that means a Vox AC30 with a 100 decibel speaker is going to be a roughly twice as loud as a Vox AC30 with a 97 decibel speaker in it.
Yeah.
Like 3 to 4 dB is about, my understanding is it's about a doubling of SPL, I believe.
Once we get into this science,
It gets
I don't
weird,
know
I
it. Yeah,
know.
it gets weird. You start adding variables and things start shifting because it's not just what's the decibel handling of the speaker, but what's the frequency range of the speaker, because a speaker that has a spike in the mids is going to sound louder, even though it's not. Then it's you start to add a bunch of variables, but I don't know. For me, go look at what Jason Isbell is
Mhm.
gigging for a rig. Go look at that at some point. Actually, I have a picture. I think this is an old one. I think it's slightly updated since this point, but I'll share this image. It's from Reddit from a while back. He has a more recent rig rundown if somebody wants to really go look at what he's using now.
Mhm.
But I promise it's no less ridiculous. Um, what is that? There it is. Share that. And as long as that's what acts are taking out on the road, I think I'm okay taking my 1 tube amp out. You know what I mean?
Right,
I
right.
think I'm good. Ultimately, it comes down to, and I will always say this, play what is right for you, gets you excited to play, and works for the gig you're playing. If that is a modeler, use a modeler. If that is a real live fire-breathing tube amp, then use the real live fire-breathing tube amp.
I feel like this look, though, is also part of kind of this aesthetic.
Oh, it's totally part of the aesthetic.
Um,
And for me, playing on stage, the aesthetic is as important as the music you play. And to me, it
sure.
looks wrong when bands don't have amps on stage, and that's me, and it makes me feel weird about it. So that's just it. So I get funky about it because that's the way my brain works. That's my weird, like, minor neurodivergence, is that I need it to look right too. It can't
Right.
just sound
And,
right.
and a lot of people make that argument that, like, oh, well, this isn't rock and roll enough because there's no amps on stage. Like, even if they're fake, like, you got to have them.
Right. Exactly.
um, but
Don't
yeah.
care. It needs to look like it. If you had like if you had just a shell of an amp that looks like you're running into it, but you're really playing into a modeler, you know what? You tricked my brain. I'm going to be happier.
Well, that was, I don't know if it was true because it's so much internet folklore.
Mhm.
Was that all of, and then also, like, I think the more I listened to some of his music, I don't even know how much it mattered, but people the internet folklore was always that Neil Young used an offstage Fender Champ, like a Fender Tweed Champ that was mic'd up, but on
Oh.
stage he had lots of amps.
Yeah, I think it's a deluxe.
But I heard it was a Champ, but
I think with Neil Young, he always used, cuz he's got a physical device
mhm.
on his deluxe. I'm pretty sure the one I'm thinking is the deluxe. He has a device called a whizzer. And I can't remember if it's on a foot treadle or a stomp switch, but it is a physical device that runs a cable like a bike gear cable and
Mhm.
turns his amp up from a foot switch at the front of the stage so that he can go from clean to dirty on his real amp
Oh,
with a physical
interesting.
device.
That's goofy as hell.
Oh, it's totally goofy as hell. But I love it. I absolutely love it. I love the dedication to just the cranked tweed tube amp. He knew what he liked, and that's
Yeah,
that's just what he
yeah.
used. Let me see if
I'm
I can find
looking at people who are like making replicas that have USB, and you can like get you can get them fabbed
Oh my
on like
gosh.
3D printed, copper or whatever 3D models, and
Yeah.
that's weird, but okay.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a whole thing. It's a decision. It's a legitimate decision.
yeah. Robert asked this question: for a good stereo sound, do both amps have to be the same, or is it recommended? I actually think I've had people try to make the argument. I don't necessarily agree with it, but
Mhm.
that I've had people make the argument that if your amps are the same, you're not actually running in stereo, you're running in dual mono.
That's it.
But I think, that has more to do with your effects chain.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're running, if you're just running like a ping pong delay in stereo, or you've got a chorus that's creating a stereo effect and both of your amps are the same, you're getting the spatial. But then when you're doing it like in a recording setup, if you're just taking the same signal and panning it to both sides, yes, you have guitar technically in stereo, but you're really just doing dual mono.
Yep. That for
So
me, that's the real thing. Do you want actual stereo? Like, do you want, because when you run some stereo reverbs and delays and modulation are not stereo. They are dual mono.
yeah,
Some are truly stereo in that what they're feeding one side is not the same as the signal they're feeding the other. So if you want truly stereo in that way, you want different things happening on each side, I actually do recommend the same amp or something similar on each side. But if for what I do, when I run 2 amps, I run dual mono, so they're both getting the same signal. They're
right,
getting identical signal. I tried the wet dry thing for a little while. It was fine. I prefer dual mono and then use 2 different amplifiers that complement each other.
yeah,
I like to use like a scooped Fender style amp and then something like a Vox AC30 or a Marshall style amp to fill in the mid range so that I get this unified single sound rather than a stereo split.
yeah.
So,
Brent, says, and this is along the lines of what you're saying, like different amps are going to give you a better stereo image, but then the caveat, and this, a lot of the venues that I've played in back in the day,
mhm.
oh, we've got 2 amps, we want to run stereo. Okay, I'm going to run 2 mics, and it's going to go to the board, and it's going to be 2 signals. But guess what? My speakers are all running out of a mono. Like my
Right.
speakers are daisy chained, so it doesn't matter.
No.
Venues all daisy chained up, so you're not getting stereo shit.
And then depending on where you're playing, if you're playing a smaller room, which I'm assuming most of us when we play live are playing smaller rooms. If
Yeah.
some of you are playing 2,500 seat theaters and more, we need to talk. I need to get you on the podcast. But for those playing smaller rooms, even if it's stereo, most of that room is missing that stereo image.
Right.
You're not
Right.
getting it in the room. So there's not much of a point. Go dual mono, get your sound right in that way. And then if that's just how I
No,
feel
go
about
ahead.
it.
I'm just thinking of like, so uh the my speaker test song, for lack of better, and I haven't
Uh-huh.
done a speaker test or like a headphone test song, was Switchfoot's Meant to Live,
Oh yeah,
because that intro is true stereo. And if you plug in like, and I learned this kind of the stupid way. I was trying to put a CD player into a guitar amp, just oh, we didn't have a PA hookup. Oh, I'll just plug
sure.
this into a guitar amp. And then half of that song is missing in the intro because all of the response guitars
Is on one
are
side.
on the other side, and it's hard panned. Like
Yeah.
there's almost no carryover. So if you were to do true stereo in a venue, all of the people on the hard right or hard left sides of the room
Are missing it.
are missing whatever. They're just like, why is there a whole part missing? Um,
I use
essentially.
back when I used to run live sound a lot more, my dialing in song was the Wallflowers One Headlight.
Mm,
And the reason that I used that song, one, I knew that song. I just
mhm.
knew it. I knew what it's supposed to sound like, right? But two, the Hammond organ in that song lets me know what the stereo image sounds like.
Oh, gotcha. Cool.
But also it's a full frequency song. It's just a great sounding song, well mixed, well mastered. So it gives me a good idea of what the PA sounds like. Now, of course, I also end up doing something like a bass nectar tune to see what
Mhm.
the low end actually sounds like. But
No, that's cool. I'm gonna throw this question at you, and then I'm gonna step out for a second.
oh
But I
sure.
think you can take this one. What makes a guitar easier to play? Because it's name three features. I'm sure you've got more
Yeah,
than three.
I have two like right off the bat.
Yeah, I'll be back in a second.
Sure. So for what makes a guitar easier to play and learn on, I'm going to take those points a little differently because learning and playing are different things. So to play on, number one, you need to get it set up. I don't care how much you spent on the guitar, pay whatever the bench fee is at your local shop with a good tech to get it set up. Um, I firmly believe that if you are interested in electric guitar, you should start on electric guitar. Don't start on acoustic guitar. Start on the instrument you are interested in. No one cares whether you built up the acoustic calluses or not before you learned how to play Smoke on the Water. Number two, actually, that's number one. That's what makes a guitar great to easier to play. Get it set up. Doesn't matter what the instrument is. You can worry about everything else later. To learn on what it looks like, and what it looks like. Both of those three are the most important thing because you need to be interested in picking it up and playing it. Period. Bottom line. If you're not excited to pick it up and play it, if you don't see it sitting on the stand and it makes you happy to have it and that you want to play it, get rid of that guitar. Get a different guitar. Get one that you think looks good and it actually draws you in to play. Because if you're not interested in playing, you're not going to play, you're not going to learn. Done. I feel like I don't have a third thing. Those are the two important things. Get it set up and make sure you like the way it looks. Make sure it inspires you to play it. And then you're set. You're golden. I feel like I answered this too quick because Steve is still not back yet.
How did you answer that so fast?
Well, because it's easy. There's only two answers.
There's only two answers.
There's only two answers. And I took them separately. What makes a guitar easier to play? Get it set up. Period. Doesn't matter how cheap it was. Get that set up. And number two, to learn on, make sure you find the guitar attractive. Like it fun for you to pick up and play. If you think it looks ugly, you're not going to pick it up and play it. You need to get a guitar that looks good to you and get it set up.
NJ asks if anyone is familiar with the Car Bell Ray. I'm not familiar with this amp. I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Car.
Dual EL84 output stage, 16 watts. But I'm not seeing anything about doing multiple. It says the Car Bell Ray reconfigures 3 legendary 60s, early 70s sounds from across the pond to dish out classic British chime, but I'm not. Okay, top boost, plexi, and H watt in the
high
twist
watt,
of a switch. Interesting.
I love how it says the British chime, crunch, and kerrang in a format today's player can actually use. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of people trying to do this. It's super rad. I think it's cool.
So it's I guess the switch is a Vox 1966 Vox, a high watt 1973, and a Marshall 1968. Those are the voicings.
Yeah.
I mean, so it sounds like probably what they're doing is they've got a straightforward amp setup with some tone cap choices.
Well, they do have an EF86 in the preamp. That's a big Vox thing. Although they have an asterisk next to EF86 in the description, and they don't later tell me what the asterisk means.
Yeah.
I don't like that. My librarian brain is really frustrated with this right now. Don't add an asterisk and not give me the footnote that is associated.
It means that when available. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. I don't tend to like do-it-all amplifiers.
Right.
I think when you get an amp that does everything, it's because they sacrificed something. But that is my purest traditionalist point of view. That is just who I am. I know that. That is not me telling you you won't enjoy that amplifier.
This is a $3,200 amplifier.
Woo. Yeah, they're not cheap. Car amps are real expensive. I say as someone who has a 2-rock over his right shoulder. I don't know. I don't want to spend that much money on an amp that I think might be a compromise for me. For somebody else, that might be the perfect amp.
Right. Right.
So I really 2024 is me taking this to another level next year of I don't say things are bad. I'm going to try.
Mm-hmm.
But then people are going to keep talking about things that I think are bad. I'm not going to mention it again. Just go listen to Gear of the Year over at Guitar Nerds.
You're gonna try to say that nothing is bad, and then people are gonna accuse you of being a shill.
Yeah. Oh, and I'll take
That's
that. But I'm going to specify if I don't like it, if it doesn't work for me, that's okay. It doesn't mean it's bad. It is not me telling you your taste is bad. It's me saying that the way I play guitar and the music I like and the tones I like, this piece of gear doesn't work for me. And I am totally okay with that.
Yeah. This is a throwback. Would you ever not buy a pedal because it consumes too much power? I'm looking at a Strymon Flint, but it requires 300 milliamps, which means I'd either have to use an external PSU or upgrade the one I have. I'm surprised that that thing actually uses 300 milliamps.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm also, let's see what Stinkfoot. So there's a website I recommend for this kind of things, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if David doesn't know it, but stinkfoot.se. He actually tests a lot of things. Oh, and he actually shows it as the Flint as the version 1 requiring 250 and the version 2 requiring 300. So
Look at that.
those could be real numbers, or maybe okay. He says, note the above figures are from Strymon and represent minimum supply current capacity. This means the actual current draw will be less than the stated figure.
Okay.
However, so not all of these are measured. Some of them he has measured.
And some he just lists because it's from the
some are just
manufacturer.
listed. So sometimes there is that, like, I think, like, when you look at Boss pedals, and this is where I'm kind of coming from, is when you look at Boss pedals, they all recommend, 200 milliamps or whatever, but a lot of your Boss pedals only require like 40 or less.
I will
this is a
say,
really good website.
I'm going to add this, and this is just a hill I will die on. If you're still using an older style power supply that doesn't have 300 milliamp per output, at least, it's time to upgrade, my friends. It is. What I've done is I've bought a few used. I bought a couple new. I use the Eventide /Chalks.
Right.
It's the same as the Chalks. It's just rebranded, and painted white. But I use those because they are 660 milliamps per output at 9 volts. And then it's got like 4 channels that are switchable voltage from 9 to 12 to 18. There's almost nothing I can't power.
Yep. No, that's what I use. I have not messed around with it too much. And Ian Johnson does point out, which is true.
Yeah.
Some pedals, a lot of these digital pedals, they spike when you turn them on because they need that little extra juice. I think that's where, like, depending on what power supply you're using and how real their numbers are, why with like the HX Stomp, you can actually run them off of other things, and you can run them like under power a little bit. So I run my HX Stomp off of a one spot for what it's worth, and I
which
run
is fine.
it isolated. But I know a lot of people I've heard a number of people say that they use the voltage combiner cable on like a standard sort of pedal power supply, and if they can get to 1 amp, so they'll combine 2 500 milliamp outputs to get up to 1 amp, and they can power an HX Stomp with that.
That's what I had to do when I was running a Stomp on my board, is with the Chalks Eventide. I had to combine 2 because 660 was not enough, but I combined 2 and it ran it no problem. I'm going to mention, just because it's a thing, and I know my Logify was asking about the Subsequent 37 earlier. Musician's Friend is doing Stupid Deal of the Hour today, and not Stupid Deal of the Day. So keep an eye on that because there is the chance that it pops up today. It may not, but
Right
there's a
now,
chance.
it is a Harbinger
Yeah, 8-channel
channel
mixer.
mixer with Bluetooth.
Well, that's not bad
Uh,
for $70.
yeah. I wonder. I don't understand this question. Michael Kraus says, "I wonder when someone will have a power supply that's a sequencer. What does that mean?"
Yeah, I'm gonna need more context.
I will say so. I made a gear purchase yesterday. I bought a Fuzz
Oh, I think I
Roches
know what he
pedal.
means. He means, I think you can actually flow one channel into another and get more power without additional cables. Is that what you mean, Michael? Like the outputs can sequence into more power for one of them. I may be making that up. That's my complete shot in the dark. Anyway, go ahead.
I bought a Fuzz Roches pedal yesterday. I think they are still running a sale, and they don't run sales very often. So if I would say if you are interested in a Fuzz Roches pedal, you should try to get one.
That gives me a question, Steve.
Yes.
What's your gear goals for 24? We talked about
Gear
this a little off the
goals.
top.
Oh, Michael Kraus is saying that that'll turn the pedals on one
Oh,
by one. So it's like, hmm.
okay. I see what you're saying because then it can deliver a little more power to each individual as they come on. Maybe I feel like that's where
Yeah,
this
that
stems
could be
from.
interesting. You
I
could
don't
use
know.
it for boot up, but the problem is like it's not. You have so many pedals that are using either like relay bypass. Well, relay bypass might not matter, but any kind of like buffered bypass, you have to keep it powered. If you pull the power on it,
Oh
but
yeah,
if
that's a
you're trying to
problem.
only dedicate power when you're using it, it would be a problem. Um, my gear goals, I don't know, man.
Yeah, what you got?
Need to learn how to need to actually learn how to use most of the stuff that I have. I did realize the other day I still do not have a Caroline Shigeharu fuzz. But I think at this point I might have I have 13 Caroline Guitar Company pedals,
Do you really?
I think.
I have none.
And I think the Shigeharu is the only one I don't have of their current lineup.
Dude, you have to get that. You can't be that close to a complete collection
Yeah,
and not
so
get that.
they have 11 pedals on their site right now. I actually have 13. The ones that are not on their site that I have are it's because I have 2 megabytes, or not 2 megabytes. I have two
Okay.
Meteores, and I have the blues, which was a limited.
Right. Yeah, that was the one I really wanted just because of the gimmick, but I'm not paying the used price for
I
those.
think I don't really understand because the Shigeharu is an icy fuzz into an octave. So I don't know what it's exactly supposed to be based off of. Because when I think of
Yeah,
IC fuzz, I typically think of muffs, but then it's talking about an op amp and BC 184 gain stages, and it's designed with John over at Electronic Audio Experiments, and he, I think, kind of just doesn't do anything super normal. So
sure.
I don't actually know what it's based on. Oh no, I'm an idiot. It's right here. Imagine classic muff style fuzziness with the punch of a classic overdrive. I just can't read.
Yeah, oh, see, now I want the blues. Like, there's still some brand new. Did they actually add it to their lineup?
No. Were you seeing? Are you seeing them
Like,
new on
on
Reverb?
Reverb, people have new like, shops have new listings for it.
Oh, interesting.
Um,
Maybe they're ones that just people that have just been sitting in stores. I don't know.
I don't
Or
know.
maybe it's a dealer only.
Yeah, there's a bunch of, like, dealers that have brand new Caroline Guitar Company, the blues.
Yeah, and they're all blue. They're all that blue,
Yeah,
uh, whatever,
like, sparkle. Yeah.
hand hammered look. My the blues is. Let me see. I'm not going to pull it down, but it's this bright green over here.
Oh, gotcha. I see it.
And And I still need to send my haymaker to them because my haymaker needs a switch replaced, and I need to reach out to them again about that.
Yeah,
But my haymaker needs a switch replaced, and I think they're also like upgrading all the haymakers now because
sure.
I think they got a I forget exactly what the story is. The haymaker's a discontinued pedal of theirs, but they do an upgraded version of the haymaker if you send it. If you like, you have to reach out, and I don't know. I don't want to say they just do it
Right,
within
and be
cost,
wrong.
right? But I think they kind of have talked about like if you have a haymaker and you need it serviced because of one thing or another, we will also upgrade it at that
Gotcha.
time. And I think it's just probably a couple part swaps, but um, I think what happened is they got like a prototype back and realized that there was some change made between the prototype and the production model or something. And so when you send it in, um, they make the mod, whatever.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't remember exactly what the details are.
I have had a few of the Caroline pedals over the years.
Mhm.
My favorite was the somersault.
Oh yeah, somersault's great.
That thing's so good. It
I
is so
recommend
good.
those. I recommend that as a chorus. It's not a conventional like simple chorus, but
Yeah. I don't
I
think
would.
of it as a chorus. I used it as a vibrato or a
Oh, okay.
tremolo a
I
lot.
I ran it as a chorus on bass, and I got really. It's funny, because I would run it, uh, and my uh music director at church would be like, what the hell is that phasing? Like, what's going on?" And then I'd be like, because they thought it was like something in the board or whatever. I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
I'm running a chorus on the bass, but I'd run it real slow,
Yeah.
and like real subtle." And they'd be like, "Oh yeah, just it," because like that's a big sound kind of right now. Um,
It's always been my favorite. I like a chorus that's set to its slowest possible speed.
yeah, and it was just a very like 80s bass chorus kind of a sound, and that was like a kind of a popular sound in uh I don't know. I don't know if it was a popular sound, but it's a sound that he wanted. So
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, yeah, let's just do this. I would run it like for entire songs. I just turn it on and run.
That's the way
And
I would do it.
and it was real like I said, it was real subtle. So it was just kind of,
You know, that was supposedly one of the Stevie
swirling in
Ray
the
Vaughan tone secrets, right?
chorus.
Yeah, he ran a rack chorus unit on its slowest possible speed.
Interesting. I did not
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the unit, uh, but most people have never realized it. That's how subtle he used it. He used the where is it? Which one is it? Dimension D.
Dimension D.
He
What's a
used
dimension?
he used the Dimension D.
I'm not familiar with the Dimension D.
That's the rack version of the
Oh,
Boss pedal.
oh, okay.
The Dimension C. The Dimension D was the rack version.
Gotcha. I'm just looking at this website, SRV Archive, and it just looks like he needed more effects. They don't have enough.
Yeah. It's so yeah, I love chorus. I have the I think the only chorus pedal I currently own is the Analog Man, and that's how I use it.
Mhm. Oh, okay.
Speed all the way down, depth all the way up.
But as far as other gear goals go, I need to play bass more. I just need to play bass more in general. Um, I don't think there's never anything I go into a year where I'm like, I really want to own one of these, or I necessarily want to like sell one something or whatever. Um, so I don't have anything from that perspective. My stuff tends to be more around like uh my gear goal for 2023 was play more guitar. My gear goal
Right.
for 2024 is play more, whatever. It's just always going to be a goal, I guess, is just play
To
more. I,
play
I
more.
have been playing more over the last couple months, I would say. I played guitar last night.
Nice.
Not for long, but
But you
but I
played.
but I played, and so I think that's it's the journey of 1,000 miles kind of a mentality.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think I'm going to push to make this happen. I don't know if it will, but I think for the next podcast episode, I record with Ryan. If we can, it may just be a like what's the baseline gear. Basically, like, so he's talked about like, oh, next time you come over, let's put together like a basic video rig,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Y'all
Where
talked about that a little
like
bit.
I,
That's a
I
good
kind of
idea.
talked, yeah, and I talked about that at the beginning, and I'm thinking like maybe that will be the next podcast topic of like, here are the things that I'm going to take home, and here are the reasons why.
Yeah. He talked about you getting an H8
Yeah,
that he's got. I've got an
which is
H8. I love that
overkill.
thing.
Like
Oh,
an
it is,
H8's overkill.
but it's great.
H4 would be fine, or is it the H1N
Oh,
is
I had one
probably
of those. Those
fine.
things are flimsy. Don't get that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's real flimsy. The battery cover literally isn't strong enough to hold the pressure of the spring that's
Oh,
pushing against
geez.
the battery. So they notoriously break.
So maybe it's
Um,
the H4 is the smallest one.
yeah.
So
Well,
maybe
I recommend the H. Well, I mean, you have it laying around, so the H8 is there. I
yeah.
bought the H8 because I had it in my head that I was gonna go start creating um I was gonna start creating convolution reverbs out of some of my favorite spaces and some of the
Mm-hmm.
bars I've played, and just to do it fun, to have it
Yeah.
as an IR, have my favorite reverbs. And there is a 360-degree mic attachment for the H8 that
Oh,
takes a
interesting.
full 360 image, and you can create a convolution reverb from it. And so that's why I got the H8. And so you can do that as well.
That's something maybe we should talk. Well, maybe we need to remember to talk about it next time.
Yeah.
Is what exactly convolution reverb is, because I know that's come up um, a few times where people have, or where like you look at a pedal and it'll say like, oh, convolution reverb, and
So I can define it real quick, real
yeah, that
short.
would be great.
A convolution reverb is very simply a reverb IR. So it
Right?
takes
Yeah, yeah.
it takes a real live space and a recording of that space, and it sends it. I've created, sends
Mhm.
out audio signals, detects them coming back in, and uses that to turn that into a reverb of a real physical space. And that's the simplest definition. So a lot of reverbs of actual spaces, how you can get like the chamber from whatever recording studio as a reverb, that's a convolution reverb
Right.
that they've
So
created.
so when you say, this is I guess the thing that when you say like it sends out an audio signal, what does that like?
You,
How is it sending that
you
out?
got you got to set up speakers and a microphone.
Is that just like, is it just like a pink noise?
Yeah, exactly. It's a pink
Okay,
noise thing.
interesting.
When I create IRs, it actually creates this, like, I'm going to use siren as
Hmm.
it's basically Doppler effect, rising and
Right.
lowering of pitch. It does that when you create speaker IRs to get the full frequency response from it
Hmm.
before it creates it. But the beauty of convolution reverbs and the way it works is, you set up a couple of speakers to play the sound, then you have the microphone that detects it, and then there's literally a plugin that comes in Logic to turn it into a reverb.
Oh, interesting.
It's
Cool.
just it's called convolution reverb.
Yeah. Haroglop asks me, when you're learning songs on bass at home, what amp do you use? I just run through the Gamatron. I'm not, I found in a home space, especially if I'm just trying to learn or just trying to like fool around and try new things. Um, as long as you're not like cranking on the amp and like really pushing the speaker, it's fine. It's not gonna. It's not an Ampeg fridge. It's not a 1x15, whatever. Um, but it's fine. It gets the job done. I've done back when I was playing uh shows regularly, playing bass in one of the bands I was in. Um I just ran like the most ridiculous rig. I wish I could find pictures of it. I probably have pictures on another computer, but I don't think I have any on this computer. But basically, I ran at one point I ran a 1x15 410 stack, and that was my rig. And oh, weird! I have an album
Mm.
that's supposed to be on Facebook. That's supposed to be photos from my last show, and it's empty. So
Oh,
whoever I think was, did I upload that? I don't know. It's just empty right now. So that's where those photos would be, and they're not there. Um, so I don't know if somebody else generated that album and then deleted their Facebook, or maybe Facebook is just glitching right now. I don't know,
yeah.
but yeah, that's what I used to run, and my bass sound, the bass sound that I settled on for that band, because we were kind of doing this alternative punk whatever sound, um MC5, Dead Kennedys. It was never anything intentional, because it was kind of like I was just trying to keep up. I never was like, oh, I really want to sound like this or like that. I was just trying to keep up. Um, but my bass sound for that was like kind of revolved around using underpowered amps, for what it's worth. Um, where a lot of people, at one point, I owned a 320-watt bass amp, and I hated it
Hmm.
because it had way too many knobs.
Yeah.
And I found that I could get more low out of it, but what I could not get out of it, that I could get with, I used a Polytone 101, which was a 130-watt 2-channel amp, and I would bridge the channels to just get that little bit extra. But it had a single 15 and two either 6 or 8-inch speaker combo.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm looking now.
that particular, the Polytone 101 bass is really, in that configuration, is tough to find. There is one on Reverb. When I Google it, there is one on Reverb for 650.
Yep. With
Which is,
175 shipping
yeah, and
in Brooklyn, New York.
that one is different than the one I have, because it has an effects switch on it.
Oh,
I don't even know what that is for, since I'm not seeing an effects loop on this one. Oh, the
it
effects loop
mono
is under.
stereo.
I think the effects loop is under the power cable, but that's basically what I had. Mine,
Basically.
yeah,
Uh,
mine.
uh,
And
sorry.
there's also like a Polytone 103 on Reverb right now, which is similar, but I think that's might be the guitar version.
Sure.
But yeah, Polytone amps are interesting. They had these foam grills or foam grill covers that would deteriorate like crazy.
The guitar amps were the jazz amp
Yeah,
for a long
yeah,
time. The Mini Brute was a big one.
yeah.
Um,
So I had that for a while. That was actually the first bass amp that I owned. Then I bought a acoustic 150, which is a 110-watt solid state guitar bass amp. So I say guitar bass amp. The one that I had with the 150 was a let me pull one of those up on Reverb so I can actually show some of this stuff. Polytone 101.
while you're doing that, I will say that for a bass amp for
Mm-hmm.
home playing, I used to play honestly, just buy a dirt cheap Fender Rumble 25. Like you could
Yeah,
literally
that's
pick it
fair.
up with one pinky. And they're cheap.
So even this one is a little different than this. Has that switch, so this is a slightly different than the one that I had, but this is that foam cover. Mine didn't have this whatever logo. Mine was like a square, like a rectangular plate
Oh, sure.
logo. Um, and then I'll show this. This is actually what the speaker configuration looked like. This one's had that foam grill replaced with like just metal grate.
Yeah, I
Just,
think that's what's happened. It just finally deteriorated and
yeah,
then just
which is
put
a thing I always threatened to do, but never did.
it's got that peavy aesthetic now.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about 650. I think I sold mine as like vintage rare for
Yeah,
like maybe $200. But maybe the market's gone up. I don't know.
maybe. I mean, the mini brute isn't going for a lot anymore either.
Yeah.
So, and that was always the one to have.
Um ac- the acoustic brand is so hard to look up on anything because and it doesn't even look like they have any acoustic control one acoustic. They might not even have any right now.
Yeah, what I've had to do anytime I've tried to search for acoustic amps, period, I search for acoustic amp, find one of them, and then click on the brand name in the listing to
Yeah.
try to narrow it down.
Here's a couple models from other. Oh, I'll show this one. This is the Acoustic Control Corp Model 135. So the
Dude, they dropped
130,
that price $21. That's a steal.
the the 135 is a 2x12 version of the 150. I don't remember. I used to understand their naming conventions. I don't anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but this is basically so mine was just the head. Uh, you might see these from time to time in shots of Ryan's garage because my 150 has been his go-to amp for Dinosaur Ghost for a long time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I used to say that the Control Corp 150, the Acoustic Control Corp 150, was kind of like a secret twin. You could get them for like under $200, 110 watts, from what I remember. And the reverb on it's really good. It's got a vibrato channel, though I think you need the foot switch for it to work. I'm not sure. Dual controls. There's also a 150B. So this is where I say like this is listed as a guitar bass combo. The amp is pretty neutrally voiced. So um so you could use it either way. And what I found for bass, especially in like this loud alt rock whatever project that we were doing, uh I would have to run this 110-watt amp at like probably 50-60% output.
Yeah.
And at that point it kind of started to overdrive, which was real fun. And so that thing would overdrive and it would just get this super mid focus, like almost fuzz, without losing. It didn't have a lot of low end. That
Mhm.
the amp as a whole didn't have a lot of low end, but I didn't lose it when that drive started to kick in, which is a problem with using a lot of like conventional overdrives with bass, is you lose that low end. Um, if you have a clean blend, I have a Ren and Cuff bass fuzz that is fantastic because it has a clean blend on it.
Okay.
Um, but a lot of them kind of lose that. I found with this head, and I would run the original cab I ran this in is, which has definitely been featured on the channel in the past, is a gutted crate GFX 212. So the amp is pulled out. I put a birch back on it to
Mhm.
close it. So it was actually technically a ported cab because the space where the amplifier used to be
Oh,
just
it's now just open.
open. Um, I ran that for a long time before I bought a couple Avatar cabs. I bought a Avatar 115, then a 410. So for some shows, I would just, for like shows where I didn't really want to like pack in a ton of stuff, I would only carry the 110. But then when I could get away with it and wanted the spectacle, the 410 115 stack was a lot of fun.
I used to play for bass gigs. I used to use a PV 300-watt 210 combo. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I wanted spectacle, I had a 410 cabinet that I would put it on top of. And it was just ludicrous. I want to show you, this is one of my favorite little home bass rigs, but it's because I found it in an antique shop, or like junk teak shop, if you know what I mean when I say that.
Yeah, yeah.
So let me share this. Sorry, it's a whole thing. Share screen. Here we go. So I have one
The
of
hell?
these. It's national, like the brand that makes resonators made a series of solid state amplifiers.
Is that a 1 by
It's a
6?
1 by 12.
1
It
by
just
okay.
looks tiny. It looks smaller because the whole package is small. Like, that's how wide it is. Look at the magnet on the speaker where it comes into the cabinet.
That's of also yeah, there's no depth.
None whatsoever. It's they like to claim 45 watts. It's not
Well,
45
hold on, go back
watts.
to that. Input. So that's input watt.
Input, yeah. Uh,
So this is probably a like 20, maybe a 20 watt
I'd be surprised if it's more
at
than like
most.
15, to be honest. Now,
Um,
mine doesn't have the yellow. Mine has a
okay,
I think mine's blue. They had a couple of different versions of this same amp, like a couple of different years, but it's just bass treble volume. I had to clean it up to get it working, but it's the lightest thing because that's just basically particle board. Like it's the
right.
tiniest amp ever. But the fact that it's not like connected like some of the some of the like oh, my brain, the Silvertone Twin 12
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
hardwired. The cab was hardwired to the head unless you modified it, right?
mhm,
This one isn't. This is like actually uses a speaker cable
yeah.
to connect it. And it's the lightest, most fun thing ever. And I think I paid $120 for it in a junk
Um,
teak shop.
yeah, that input uh wattage is always really dumb.
Yeah.
I don't really understand why brands list that.
Yeah. And you can see the speaker says it's a maximum of 30 watts
Yeah,
that it can handle.
there's
So,
probably some kind of reason for it, but I learned that about that input wattage thing. Now they're trying to say output 20 to 30 watts.
yeah,
I
I'm not sure I
mean,
buy it, but it's cool either way.
let's see if I can find a back panel on a so the Fender Frontman 10s.
Mhm.
Um
I'm gonna stop sharing this even though it's rad and I like just looking at it.
the Fender Frontman 10s uh back panel. So a very generalized rule,
Yeah.
very generalized rule is I've just this is just from observation. Some electronics person is going to watch this and just say that I'm full of shit, which is true. But it's just a general observation is that your output wattage is around half, maybe 40% of your input wattage.
Okay.
So if they're saying, so I'm looking at a Fender Frontman 20G on Sweetwater. I didn't even know they still made these. But this is one you can buy, Fender Frontman 20G. So if anyone wants to go check this out, you look at Sweetwater, you'll see this thing. It's a 20-watt amp with a listed input power of 38 watts. If you look at the Fender Frontman 10G from like back in the day, they were always listed. And I found these listings on because of this, because people don't know, I found these on like Craigslist where someone it'll say like, oh, Fender Frontman 10, 28-watt amp, because the back of the amp says 28 watts input power. And so people don't know, they just know an amp has wattage. They don't know.
Yeah, they don't know.
Maybe they think the speaker is a 10-inch speaker. I don't know, even though it's an 8. Um, but yeah, so they list it as 28 watts when really it's 10 because they're just going off the input value.
Yeah, that
So
tracks.
that's what I'm saying, like 48 or 45 input watts. They're probably trying to claim to be a 25-watt amp, but it's also who knows how they're measuring.
Yeah.
Though that I would think that would be a more straightforward measurement, but I don't know. Last
All I
thing I
know is
want,
it's fun.
yeah, last
It's
thing I
fun.
want to do because I probably need to. We're over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's
Um,
lunchtime.
But Wickershire says, with so many guitars collected, do you both remember when and why the purchase? And I can honestly say yes to at least all the ones that I have.
Yeah. All the
Um,
ones I currently have in my possession, I absolutely remember where or why I bought them or
yeah,
traded for them.
actually, very briefly, because I think I have one, two, three, four, five. 10. I can do this very quickly. So there went my water bottle off camera. But Taylor Big Baby, I bought this as a gift for my girlfriend, who I'm now married to. So it's mine. It's mine again. She never learned guitar, but she could. Like she learned like a couple chords and then
Yeah.
and just lost interest. This Harmony Archtone. This was my grandmother's guitar.
That's a cool one.
This is a Fender. I learned recently that there are no what I always called the contemporary standard Stratocaster. I have seen people argue that there was no contemporary standard Stratocaster in the 80s, that the standard Stratocaster just had shared hardware with the contemporary, but it wasn't an actual series. But this is a it's an E series or E serial Japanese Fender. I ditched a class in college to buy this because it was $100.
Oh wow.
It does not have the Schaller Fender System 1 tremolo on it.
That's the one you've been looking for the replacement for.
Supposedly, I kind of stopped looking because every time I find one of those systems, it's like $125.
It's more than you paid for the guitar,
and that's only for the trem.
Yeah,
that's not for the locking nut. Really, what I need to do one of these days is just go fork out like $400-$500 or whatever to buy the Squire version of it that will have that hardware, and then just use that as like a pickup platform or something. PVT-20 I got. So what I don't know is the exact years, but I got this PVT-20 a couple years ago from a listener. I traded a Yamaha bass for this bass.
Oh yeah.
Fender or Squire Classic Vibe 60s Jazz I bought on sale. Was it this year?
Last year. That was last November, December.
Bought that on sale. This Italia Mondial bass I got from Grant from Big Ear Pedals. Super, just as a gift. So I used that bass live for a long time. Well,
yeah,
used it for a couple of years live. This is a Jag-Stang in Fiesta Red. This is my first electric guitar. And my mom bought that at a church garage sale. I told her like, oh, she sent me some pictures of it. She took a couple of pictures of it. This was in like 2001, I think.
Right.
And I eBayed it. And on eBay at the time, they were like $250 to $300. And I told her, I said, well, that's cool, but if it's not less than like $200, like just skip it. Like, because I didn't super love the look of it and everything, and I think at that point I probably just wanted like a Strat, or I don't know what I wanted in 2001.
No, you didn't know. That was the thing. You had no idea.
But it was like I was just looking for electric guitar. I know what I didn't like about Strats is all the Strats I could afford were like Fender. Well, all the Strats that I was like pushing towards were like Fender standard Strats with the super sharp saddles.
Yeah,
I palm muted a lot, so anytime I played one of those, I would like borrow a Strat and just tear my hand up.
Yep.
But my mom ended up buying that for me. It probably needs, the guy who owned it before me like destroyed the frets. I never replaced them. It's never been an issue for me. But yeah, that was my first electric guitar. That red one right there.
Mm-hmm.
This is a PV Generation, which is a Telecaster style guitar. I got that for free.
Okay.
It was missing a saddle.
You paid the appropriate price for it.
Dude, it's an American-made PV.
Yeah. Those Generation series, I had a couple of them, and I'm like, oh.
It's weird, and I go back and forth because it is mostly original. I did have to replace one saddle because it was missing a saddle completely.
Yeah.
But it's the original pickups. It's most of the original electronics. So it's like things that were replaced part for part. Not like new old stock or anything, but they were replaced with the same. But I've got a Gun Street wiring shop. When I redid this guy, with a Gun Street kit, Sean actually sent me 2 kits. And so I put in the kit. I tried them both, but I put in one kit here, and I thought about putting the other kit in this guitar. I've also thought about replacing the pickups in this guitar, but it's one of those things where I'm torn because it I paid nothing for it, but it's, again, like I said, it's original.
Yeah. Oh, I get you.
So I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want
Don't
to
want to
keep it
mess
up.
with that.
This is a different PV generation.
Yeah, this is
This
one
is
of the
the import.
generations I had that, man, like mine had covered humbuckers,
Hmm, hmm.
but this thing was just bad.
Yeah, well, this is from the era when they were experimenting with import builds, and I think the only thing that they were getting made as a good import were the Surus bases.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And
This
I
thing
the
had an actual piezo, whatever.
in the bridge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, like, it looks like a kindergartner decided that those neck screw placement, um,
Right.
it's
Right.
just bad.
No, they were the EXP series, they were just trying to get everything that they were making in the US made
Yeah.
somewhere
The
else.
US ones are better, I've had one of those, but it was just one of those things that, like, the work it took,
Yeah.
I don't know, I was like and as that's as a PV fan, I just wasn't a big fan of those
Trying to figure out
guitars.
where I need to move my head to. So yeah, so
Yeah.
next to that PV generation. So the deal with this is the guy who I got that from, he's told me, he said, if you ever decide to get rid of this, you need to give it away.
Okay.
Because I got it from him for free. So he's like, you got to pay it forward. So I guess that means I'll just never give it away. And then because that deal won't apply to my kids, so then they can get like $100 for it or whatever
There you go.
when I die. Uh, Gibson Les Paul Studio Light. I found that on a Craigslist deal for like $550. Um, Seymour Duncan pickups. Drove to what I thought was a shady part of town to pick it up that my church later moved to. They're building to literally like 2 or 3 blocks from where I bought this guitar. And then this Telecaster is a parts Telecaster. I traded an Ashdown, what I think they called a vintage style cabinet. So it was like a shallow cab,
Uh-huh.
2x10 for a bunch of parts. Then I took those parts and gave them to a local guy, Ron Childress, who was like a local guitar tech working out of his garage, and said, assemble all these parts. And he did. So that's got an 80s Squire neck on it. So it's a Japanese Squire neck. I figured out, I think it's an SQ series, but that's based on staring at the logo on it for a long time and comparing it to other SQ series Squires, because they have a very particular silver black outline script to it.
Okay.
But yeah, that's all my guitars.
Hmm. I won't try this exercise.
but
I'm
but
just
you but can you do it? You
Oh, yeah,
probably can
yeah.
do it.
I could, but there are guitars in another room that I'm not
Right.
gonna get up and go,
Right.
like I mean, there's some stuff that's in here literally because I got it to flip, and
Yeah.
that's a reason too. There's a PRS over here, got it to
Mm,
flip. That's the whole point.
yeah.
That's the reason I
I
got
I do have another acoustic in this case right here.
it. Mhm.
That was my first acoustic guitar that I got that from Guitar Center. It's a Mitchell that
Oh, I remember Mitchell.
plays super good. It sounds like not super good, but it plays super good. So I kind of bought it on playability.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that did not sound super good until, like, it sounds fine until you have to play in another room with another acoustic guitarist who has like a Gibson or a Martin or whatever,
So
and
a
it's
good
not
acoustic, and
and
you're
it's
like,
not even, or a Taylor. It's not about like tone purely.
mhm.
It's just it's quiet.
You know what you need to do? You need to take that guitar and you need to give it the Beatles treatment and install a volume and tone pot and a magnetic pickup, like, right at the neck.
I did install a preamp. Like, I later cut the thing up and did an undersaddle,
Oh, yeah.
and then I had to eventually take that to Sean, who's now at Pitbull. He's the main guitar guy at Pitbull Audio, here, well, not here where I'm at, but in San Diego. and because I tried to shave the saddle to compensate for the
Oh, you overshaved it.
piezo, whatever. No, what I did is I shaved it at an angle. So
Oh,
it was only some like it worked, but it didn't work great. And every once in a while, if you played too hard, the saddle would just go plunk.
oh no. Okay. Yeah, that's a
Uh,
problem.
so yeah, I've got that. And then I do have an Ibanez Roadstar in the garage in parts because I
Uh,
bought that in
those
Ocean
are
Beach.
cool. I really like those.
I bought that out of like a $2 million house.
What?
And it's not a $2 million house because it was a nice house. It was a $2 million house because it was like 2 blocks from the beach,
Oh, yeah.
in a kind of shady part of town. Um, but that but yeah, it's
I am with
yeah.
Hero Glop. It is time for you to have an indecently expensive instrument, Steve.
I keep going back and forth on it. I kind of I don't need to be pushed. What I need to do is focus on my family and be a good father, and take some of the so take some of the money that I've gotten through flips and gotten through just various things with what Ryan and I do, Patreon and ad spots and whatnot. I have that just in us a high yield savings account,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
but it's separate from like my primary high yield savings account. And I probably have no, I definitely have enough in there where if I took everything in there and went to Doug Cower at Cower Guitars
Yeah.
and said, "This is what I have. We've been friends for a long time. What can you do for me?" I'm and I think he would just do something for me.
It's
I know he would do something for me. The thing is it's one of those things where like to have all of this and then have, a 35 4,000 because like I said, that's what it would be worth. I know he would give me a deep discount.
right, right.
Because we've kind of talked about this a little bit in the past of like, do I want to go nuts on a 40-year birthday guitar?
Yeah, you do.
But then it's like, man, like I could pay a lot of bills. I could go on vacation. I could
What
do
you
all
gotta
those
do, though, is
things.
clear the non-unique stuff, like the no real story stuff, even if it's not much. Like,
Right.
it just to make room for like, for example, the classic vibe that you and I both have.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's an
But then
expendable
I don't
base.
have a jazz bass.
Eh,
Everybody needs a jazz
no,
bass.
you don't. Everybody needs a P base.
I don't have a B bass.
Well, then
I have a T bass.
well, that's part of that could also be part of what you're getting from Doug. It's your do everything base.
I mean, that is part question there is like, hey man, what would it cost for you to build like I don't think he's built a bass in like probably 7 years.
I know I haven't seen one in a long, long time. Not since I've known Doug, and I've only known him for a few years, but I know that he has never uh he has not built a base in that time. I just
I
know they exist.
I have only ever seen I think we've talked about them before,
Yeah.
but I think I've only seen 3 or 4 basses in the wild.
I've
There's a teal daylighter
uh-huh.
that gets shown all and actually I'm seeing a lefty version of that one. So I guess I should add one to that list, but there's a teal daylighter, there's a green Arctur Supreme, there's
Uh-huh.
another green
That's the
bass.
one I'm showing. I'm gonna pulling that one up.
Yeah, there's another green bass that I've seen but have not yeah, this one.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
There's another green one out there that's
Uh-huh.
not this, but I have not seen a picture of it in forever. Like it's been so long that like I sometimes question whether or not it actually exists.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure it exists. It was a jazz bass configuration.
Ooh, I found a
Um,
burst. Not it's not burst. It's like a natural, like unburst one.
you'll have to show that one
Yeah, hold on.
because I
Let
don't think I've
me
seen
let me
that before.
stop sharing this one. That one can go away. And then I'm going to share this one. Um
Oh, I've never seen this one.
yeah,
That's cool.
that one's so rad.
Are these just on? Are you finding these on his site?
I did a Google image search.
I
Oh,
mean, that's what I'm looking at too, but I'm just
oof.
not seeing
Well,
anything else come up.
I'm a literal researcher. It's my job. Stop sharing here. Oh, this is it, Steve. This is it. This is what you have to get him to build you. Like, done.
Oh, geez, that's wild.
That is a super chief base.
I don't. I've owned a couple different semi-hollow bases. This one back here is a semi-hollow. I played a Eastwood Classic 4 for a long time. They're they're fine. I don't
Yeah, I
I
love
don't
semi
know.
hollow bases. I really do. I don't own one, but I want one real bad. Um, I'm looking to see if there's any more because a few of these are coming from base talk
Oh,
base. Sorry,
talk
talk
base.
base. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm not seeing any others, but yeah, I would 100% be on board with something like these. I think that should happen.
Maybe that's what I needed to do. Yeah, if you look up, I just did Cower talk base. I'm still not seeing this green one though. I at some point I'm just going to convince myself that I imagined it, which is the sad thing.
Or maybe you dreamed it and that's the base you need made.
I can't even like picture it though. Like I can't
Yeah.
even imagine in my head what exactly but I swear there was like a jazz bass of these, but
Well, you can keep
I don't
searching
know.
for that, but I think we're wrapping up here.
My
We're at the
gosh.
end.
Cower bass with Ron Ellis pickups.
Oof.
So you want Doug to build a bass, which is going to be like a $4,000 bass, and then put pickups in it that will still be somehow worth more than $4,000.
Does
Uh,
Ron Ellis even make bass pickups? I
I
don't think
don't
he does.
think so.
I don't think he does. Um,
I mean, maybe.
I
No,
wanna talk to Ron. I wanna get him on the podcast. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna
no,
reach out to him
that
today,
would be
see
a
what I
good
can do.
pull. That he lives in a space that like I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
That level
like
of pickup cost and making, I my brain doesn't even get near that.
it's one of those things where as over the years I've seen, I think when Lawler first came out with the are they the ones that do the Cunifes? They were doing Cunifes before everyone else.
I don't know. I know Novak does Kuna now.
Novak, that's what
Yeah,
I'm thinking of. Is Novak first came out with the Cunifes, um, and I think they were like 250 $300
they were expensive.
a piece. But that was one where I was like, yeah, but nobody else at the time, no one else was making a period correct
Yeah,
Cunife, right? So I was like, okay, I can understand that. Seymour Duncan Antiquity is like a hand wound single person pickup, $200 a pickup. I'm like, all right, I kind of understand that. And over time, like some of those prices have creeped up to like, maybe
maybe
250 for a
or
single pickup.
maybe 300.
But then, Ron Ellis is selling a single coil, not just a single coil pickup for $375,
Yep.
425 for a single
Dude,
humbucker.
yeah, so I was looking for humbuckers at one point because I was thinking about swapping out the humbuckers
Mhm.
in, maybe my Les Paul, I don't know. Just because I'm trying not to go down the pickup rabbit hole because that is a
No, yeah,
wild place. But yeah, I was like, I went on Ron Ellis because everybody was talking about him, and I'm like, I have heard them in videos, and I'm like, oh, I want to check these out. And I was like,
yeah,
oh man, 425, that's not bad for a set of humbuckers. And I was like, oh wait, that's not a set. That's one. That's just
yeah.
one pickup.
And I'm not super familiar with his music. I am familiar with the name, but I've heard people make the argument that well, he makes the Bill Vercel
Yeah.
Collings pickup, and that's great.
He also makes the Julian Lage Dynasonic.
right. And for both of those guys, or the Gibson slash pickup, or anybody else's signature pickup, it doesn't matter what if I put that pickup in my guitar. The one place where maybe this is a very big maybe, though I would need a triple or dual rectifier, I guess, um, is uh if I put like an Seymour Duncan Invader pickup in the bridge position of a Stratocaster, then maybe I can sound like um when
Tom
Tom
DeLonge.
Tom DeLonge.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a tone I can achieve in a playing, because I don't think there's too much magical technique going on
Yeah.
there.
No,
But
I don't think so either. So as we wrap up, y'all remember to go look at Stupid Deal of the Hour. It's a 3-pack of elixir strings right now. Meh.
oh, fun.
Yeah, meh. Uh but I think, Steve, if the timeline is right, the next time we would live stream is literally the week of NAMM. So I don't know if we'll do a hungover actually in the same room live stream, or if we'll just wait until the next week and be like, nah, this ain't happening right now.
Yeah, we'll
Uh,
see. Maybe we do. We'll see what happens.
yeah, a NAMM wrap up live stream after all of the insanity. I'm hoping for insanity. If it's really calm, I'm going to be really upset.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
Well, I think Nam is going to be. I'm waiting to see what other off-site events crop up.
yep.
I do know there's a couple things I've been hit up about, but I think at least one of those things is happening on Wednesday, so it's before I get there.
You could get
Um,
there on Wednesday if you wanted.
maybe we'll see. It's probably not going to change.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know. I know.
I got a haircut Thursday morning anyway, so
Oh, I got you.
in orange. So, uh, but yeah, I get the woman who cuts my hair, her salon. So she cuts hair in San Diego like once a month,
Okay.
but then her salon that she works at is in Orange County.
Oh,
So for Nam, I usually try to time it where like whatever my last like winter haircut is, I just stretch that out, and then I get my haircut the morning of the first day that I'm at Nam.
I need to get mine cut about a week before NAMM because my hair
Mm,
looks awful for the first week after a haircut.
no, I go in and I go, and she knows like I'm going to Nam, so she does like it's like a wedding day haircut. Well, I mean, it's
Oh,
not, but it's like it's that mentality of like
yeah, yeah. You
I'm
gotta
gonna
look
do this
pro, man.
haircut because it's gonna go straight to. Now that being said, I will be wearing a bucket hat for at least one of the days of Nam. So I don't know how much a haircut really matters, but
That's true.
possibly Saturday. I think I'm gonna break that out.
Saturday feels like a bucket hat day.
Yeah. But anyway, we probably could have talked about more things, but I really appreciate. Actually, I want to give a shout out to Wickershire Project for just a ton of questions today,
Yeah.
keeping the show moving. It did not feel like all approaching 3 hours.
I know.
And yeah, happy New Year. I hope everyone has a safe night tonight. Um, and yeah, just take it easy.
Yeah, that's my plan. Happy New Year, y'all.
Happy New Year and stay grounded.
Make some noise.